Yeah, whenever you guys are ready. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, whenever we're ready. I'm just getting you.
No worries. I just
it's
wasn't sure if we
been-
were
When you
holding
It's casual. It's very casual.
Yeah.
Okay, fair. We don't have to eat the mic, right?
No.
I wore my suit. So.
There you go.
Yeah.
Just undo your tie a little bit.
You want me to?
That's up to you.
Fine. You're fine.
No.
Yeah, get comfortable.
How do you want to be known?
I got blisters
I
yesterday, so now I've got flip flops on.
I think I just like mentally and physically recovered. I come to DC like maybe twice a year, and now I've been here twice in the last month, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Well, because that's where all the cool kids are. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I've been 3 times in the last month.
I was just saying,
Two are for pleasure, and I guess this is also technically pleasure.
if we come back for the Indy race, it's gonna be 3 times in one summer.
It'll be more than that for me.
That's a lot of
When's
DC.
the Indy race happening?
August.
Oh.
Supposed to be.
The
We
same.
got to see the White House from the side today, so from the West Wing side. So we
Oh,
we saw the
fun.
UFC ring being set up today. So
Yeah.
that was interesting.
Interesting.
Like doing an Indy race here. I mean, didn't they have huge issues doing one in Vegas?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because-
that was Formula One in Vegas.
Formula
but yeah,
One.
the first year Formula One in Vegas, they ripped the bottom of 2 cars off.
That's what I was
Yeah.
gonna say. Like, because the pothole covers were like a quarter of an inch too
Yeah.
high. You can't fix DC to be that.
No.
And so
Not in the next 2 months.
the race is 2 months away, and they don't have their permits yet.
Well,
So good luck.
That should be interesting. Do we
Yeah.
kick it off with something?
Yeah,
or
yeah,
where are
we'll
you?
kick off. Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Dirt Drive Podcast. We are in DC again. We can't get
Yeah.
away from this place, but we are here with friends. You guys know Shannon, and we have Ben. BlueRibbon Coalition is in town, and I've reached out and said, "Hey, you guys are in town. Let's get together and do a podcast." What are you guys in town for? Anything in particular? Any special bill or
UFC fight.
UFC fight? I think you're a little early for that.
Oh,
think
well,
that's next
we're
month?
camping out on the lawn until
Okay.
it happens.
I thought the national guy got rid of all the campers in DC. Sorry, different podcast.
Yeah, no, we are in town just because we do regularly come out here. There's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of opportunity right now to rewrite how our public lands get managed. And so we will come out a few times a year, usually, to just keep the ball rolling. And we have multiple initiatives that we're working on with various administration leaders, members of Congress, other allied organizations out here, and so it just becomes a place where you can come get some important things done.
So you guys aren't here on like a specific mission. You just like keep the ball rolling on the projects you have right now.
That is generally what we're here for. This specific trip, though, we have been really ramping up the intensity level on an issue that we've called the minimization criteria rescission in our public discussions that we've had online. And back in earlier this year, we had a judge in San Francisco create an order closing 2,200 miles of trails out of the Mojave Desert in California. And this is one of the most aggressive closures of public land we've seen in our organization's history. She closed over 1 million acres of land in this area, all 2,200 miles of trails. And all this was because she said the BLM didn't comply with this rule called the minimization criteria rule. And if you read the court filing on that, the BLM said, well, we think we did comply. We did tens of thousands of pages to comply with this because you asked us to do that. This wasn't the first time they'd been in court on this. This was round 2 after 10 years of going back and trying to get the work done right because the court had already ordered them to do this. And she said, nope, still not good enough. And so the agency was really frustrated by this. They feel
The
like
BLM was frustrated.
Yeah, they
because someone shut down their land.
Yeah.
And
Well,
It's
no,
our
because
land,
Yeah,
technically.
it's our
correct.
land.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it shut down their plan that they had invested a lot of staff time and energy and resources to get right in a way that meets the mission of the BLM, which is to manage our land for multiple use, for multiple users to be able to come and use it. And this judge just shut it all down. And we had been fighting to get rid of the minimization criteria really since the beginning of this organization. But once this administration came in 2 years ago, we came out here on an early trip to DC in 25, and this was one of the top regulatory targets in the materials we brought out here. So we've been pushing hard for this for 2 years, like very hard. Part of that was because the Supreme Court had made some rulings that really ripped the foundation out from underneath this rule. It doesn't have a lot of good basis in law to even exist, and especially not now that the Supreme Court precedents have shifted.
Yeah, and this was the Supreme Court precedents was that non-legal entities can't make decisions to shut down. Is that the one you're talking about? I'm probably quoting that very wrong.
You're on the right track, though.
Okay.
You're on the right track. So I want to rewind for your audience so they're not like, what the hell did I just tune into right now?
They're used to it.
Yeah. But so Blue Ribbon Coalition, that's what we're both a member of here.
Okay.
We are a national organization. So a national organization that really works to protect motorized access on public lands. And so that's a really broad spectrum of things, right? And so even that can get a little confusing for people because, so where King of the Hammers happens is Bureau of Land Management land, so that's the Department of Interior. We met with them today. But then you have national forests, right? And so that's actually USDA. Most people don't even understand the difference there. So we met with them yesterday. But ultimately, what we work on at every level, mostly on a national level, so more federal, which is why we spend time in DC, is we work to protect motorized recreation rights on public lands. Because quite frankly, when they're putting together how public lands should be dealt with, if it has a motor and it's got wheels associated with it, we're the black sheep of public lands.
Yep.
And so we usually get thrown out with the bathwater in just about every kind of decision that's made. And we realized with this administration that there was a real opportunity to maybe turn that around. This is the first White House that's actually put something out again. One of their initiatives was Make America Beautiful Again. And they actually said the words off-road in it. They talked about motorized recreation in it. No White House in the 20 years I've been involved with land use and the fights has ever even recognized us as a viable industry before.
Or was it Eric or Donald Jr.? They got involved with the Moab closures.
Ben can speak to that for sure.
Yeah,
Sorry,
so-
Which was cool. Which was really cool.
Yeah,
No, it is cool.
yeah.
Like after the election happened, we had an old Facebook post that had a map of all the closures, and Donald Trump Jr. had reshared that on Instagram with a message that said "Let people moto again."
Yeah.
He's,
Yeah, that was big. I got
Huge.
I got chills when that
Yeah.
happened, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we're East Coasters, and we
Yeah.
got chills.
Yeah.
So, just for my own curiosity, what is the reasoning behind judges signing those closures? Like, you know, I get that the minimization criteria gave them the ability to close it, but like, why?
Can I speak to this just a little bit on something that's a little bit more maybe relevant? All of this is relevant to your users, but we're geeks. Like land use isn't sexy. Like that's if I've had one, Ben would disagree with that. So my goal is to take Ben's big brain and help translate that to the masses in ways that say, hey, this is what we're fighting for. This is what we need to win on. And I learned that when working on the hammer stuff. But ultimately, this particular judge, I didn't know any of this. This actually was going down while we were at King of the Hammers. I started getting blown up by people while I was with you guys. And I'm calling him going, we got to do something about this. And he's like, okay, let me look into it. But ultimately, this judge once shut down half of Glamis for 16 years. If I'm not mistaken, 16 years, half of Glamis. This woman, her entire career has been about getting motorized off of the land.
Is it her going, I need to do this, and I'm finding the legal loophole to do it, or somebody
Not
like filing a
necessarily.
lawsuit?
So it's I don't know the judge's intentions, but I know the group's intentions that are bringing the lawsuits. And
Okay,
so these are usually brought by organizations like the Center for Biological Diversity, who's been working cases with this judge, and they're part of a bigger constellation of organizations that we call them anti-access groups. And it's because they have made motorized access to public land public enemy number one.
Which is wild to me because I've said this before and I'll say it 1,000 times again. Anybody who uses that land, whether it be a hiker, biker, kayaking, mountain climbing, any of these guys, gals, they all have their Subarus, their Forerunners, or this, that, and the other. And they want to protect what they want to do, but they don't realize that if they take away the motorized part, that could affect their access to what they want to do.
Yeah.
So we're all part of the motorsports community, and that the non motorsports outdoor users do not realize that, and they're affecting us, but in the long run, they're going to affect themselves.
Yeah, and that's 100% accurate in that what you'll see from these anti-access groups is they'll make the public believe that OHV use, that term, is code for something more like a side-by-side.
Mm-hmm.
Where to me, the federal definition of an OHV is a Ford Raptor or a side-by-side or a Toyota 4Runner or a Ford Bronco, like anything that's traveling on these dirt roads.
An e-mountain bike, technically.
Yeah, e-bikes or OHVs.
Oh,
and
wow,
so
I
we
didn't
need
think
to
about
be aware that the language gets coded, but these groups, their holy grail is turning as much federal land as they possibly can into what is called congressionally designated wilderness, meaning Congress passes a law, says this little shape on the map is now wilderness, and that means there is nothing that can happen in here except
no motorized
hiking.
vehicles, period.
At all, yeah.
It's
You
just
can't-
human, yeah.
You can't bring in a chainsaw to clear a trail. They will take mule trains in with handsaws to do
Because they can't run gas saws based on this ruling.
You can't ride a bike on these trails. You can't bring a wheelchair on trails. The wilderness groups will debate with me about that, but these become basically inaccessible except for people who are able-bodied enough to do a multi-mile long hiking, which is a great form of recreation. A lot of people do that. We're not opposed to that, but to have that be the only exclusive use that can go and enjoy millions and millions of acres of federal land, which often end up being some of the coolest parts of our federal land system, is questionable. The problem we run into as advocates for motorized use is that the definition in the law for a wilderness area is 5,000 contiguous acres without a road. And so they have to remove roads from landscapes in order to make land eligible to be
Wild.
future wilderness. And a lot of these roads are old mining roads. The mining claim owners don't use them anymore, but the recreation users do. Or they're old logging roads. They're not logging them anymore, but we use them for recreation. So because we're the only users that are still using these roads that are the one obstacle for them achieving their goal, they have to demonize us, turn us into the scapegoat, so that they can accomplish their political agenda.
Yeah.
Go
Is
ahead.
that part of the roadless rule? So like if that road becomes unpassable, then the BLM or whoever manages that road isn't going to open it because it's already unpassable, so it just closes.
That happens.
Did I get the roadless rule right?
It's not, the roadless rule is different than that, but
Okay.
that is part of
Dang.
that.
I'm impressed with your homework, though. Between knowing about the Supreme Court rulings and the roadless rule, you're doing well.
I am.
So,
This is not my day job.
Yeah, no.
I am a super enthusiast, though. I love this stuff.
There's a reason we call ourselves the Dirt Nerds.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
In all fairness, it's not my day job either. I'm strictly volunteer as a
Okay.
board member at this point. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can talk about the roadless rule, but what you're talking about is what usually happens in a process called travel planning, where they go find all the routes that are out there and decide what can be open, what can be closed. And you'll see within our community, people will say, well, the reason they're closing routes is because people are out there doing irresponsible things, or they're tearing up the land, or they're doing. And if you go look at the administrative record, which is the tens of thousands of pages the BLM put together to justify what they did in a place like Moab, where they closed 300 miles of very popular off-roading trails. We looked through that because we're in court on that. We found no evidence of that. Right. That's not why they're closing the trails. They're closing the trails because the wilderness group sent them pictures of trails saying, there's a bush growing in this trail, so it's reclaiming. And so if we were to keep using this, that would cause environmental damage to the vegetation, and so you need to close it. So they're actually closing things because we're not using them allegedly. Not because they're being overused or damaged.
It's not getting used enough, so hey, let's take it away.
And the second they take it away, they get to Ben. Why don't you speak to? They get to start their path towards declaring it wilderness areas. So there's a whole nother aspect of this that's called wilderness study areas, and these are areas where it gets put into what I would call purgatory. We're not allowed to use it. It's not technically wilderness. It's not technically not wilderness, and it just sits in this purgatory for a long time. But so they start with let's get rid of the roads. Then it goes into wilderness study areas, and then as quick as possible they try to turn it into wilderness. Can you say how many miles or acres of our public land is inaccessible to the public because it's wilderness at this point? Do you know what the total number is?
I know Nick has a
You're
graphic
testing
on this,
them. That's
but
a good
it's
one.
Right?
There's 112 million acres of designated wilderness. There's 59 million acres of roadless areas, which are basically managed essentially like these wilderness study areas. There's going to be tens of millions of miles more of the wilderness study areas. So there's 600 million acres of public land. I would say once you add in national monuments, national conservation areas, wilderness study areas, all these protective designations, more than half of it is managed restrictively.
Which is why we get so furious. Like, it's amazing, right? I've got a little bit of a hot topic going on my Facebook right now around this. And like people come on and they're like, you guys can go anywhere you want to and do anything you want. It's like, do you have any idea how much of our land is locked away from us to actually be on? Do you have any idea?
Well, with you guys being West Coasters, being on the East Coast, it's miserable.
Sure.
Because you're driving down the road, or driving down your trail, and you can see it on Onyx. We don't have a code anymore. I gotta reset our code with Onyx. That's why I pointed, because I'm like, I'm thinking quick. We don't have an Onyx code anymore. But you can see it on Onyx, but then there's a gate across it, and Onyx says permanently closed. Yep. For like what reason? Like you can see through your topo that it goes to a beautiful overlook. Why?
And
is
that's
this
on
closed?
federal land?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there will always be some sort of an administrative justification for that, where the agency documented why they closed it, and that's something the Blue Ribbon Coalition, we always want to know about those. And so back to what we started with, one of the things we're out here for is we were putting together a petition to rescind the minimization criteria. That all came out of that Western Mojave decision. And so last Friday, President Trump did sign an executive order that rescinded there were two executive orders from President Nixon, President Carter. So these have been on the books for 50 years.
As long as I've been alive.
Yeah. And they've been the basis for all of the regulatory shutdown of our public lands for off-roading. And Trump rescinded those. So this is like one of the biggest successes that this off-road advocacy movement has had since the whole system started working against it. This is a massive rollback. And so everybody's been coming on our page now that we've announced this, wondering, well, what does it mean? And it means there's still a lot of work to do to apply this new framework to past decisions. It doesn't just undo past decisions. That's not how federal agencies work.
Still gotta go to court.
But if there are closures that have happened in the past, there's a possibility that some road out here on the East Coast on the National Forest is most likely what you're talking about. If you're running into a gate that it says permanently closed, that closure was probably justified by a minimization criteria regulation at some point in the past. In my opinion, that is open for reassessment.
Okay.
We actually have on our site now, I know it went out in an email. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
The link is on our site somewhere, right? That it says anything
it'll be in the
I'm
link
looking
tree.
at Nick, who's
The
in the other
marketing
room
guy.
right now.
Yeah.
No, it'll be on the link tree in our bio.
Yeah, there you go.
Very nice.
There you go.
But where you can go, I think the first thing that like my community of friends did after I told them about the minimization criteria being removed, well, first they went, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And then as I started explaining, they're like, can we open this? Can we open that? Can we open this again? So we actually have a link that says if you want to revisit something like this closed trail,
that'd be
let us know
wonderful.
about it. I mean, we can't promise you we can get them all overturned tomorrow, but we want to know where the biggest areas and the biggest pain points are at this point. So
But we can promise you that the Department of Interior is actually interested in this same question. And one of our discussions we've had over this week was, how do we get the public to inform you now about how to apply this new
And where to apply it.
framework? And they're very interested in that. They want to see this not just be something that got done in the paperwork in the halls of some office in DC. They want this to reopen trails on the ground so that the public can see this as a public benefit that they've made available back to us that was taken away.
So that leads me to my next question that I was just thinking about like 5 minutes ago. I'm like, how do I ask this? So you guys are mainly Midwest area, based off your geographical location.
I would say Intermountain West.
Intermountain West.
Mountain West.
Mountain
We had
West.
this conversation.
You corrected me earlier. Mountain West.
West.
Mountain
Midwest
West.
is like Wisconsin.
Is that just your location? Does BRC represent everyone, or you guys have like a particular? Are you guys
We're
west of
national.
Mississippi?
We're national.
Okay.
We represent everyone. You have to keep in mind that most of the public land is
absolutely
is Mountain West,
I
right?
would-
But that doesn't mean that that's the
But
only area we work. Yeah.
We've done a lot of work on the East Coast. We've done some work with some dirt bike groups down in South Carolina where they were just needing volunteer agreements reinstated so they could maintain trails. We have a group in New Jersey that's reached out to us about some closures that are done at the state level down in the Pine Barrens.
Okay.
And we've been talking to them, and we really need to find a like-minded attorney in New Jersey that wants to help with this. That's kind of the obstacle right now, is we think there's opportunities forward in that area. Like we're not convinced that the state agency did things correctly, but when we get to something that's that granular on a state level, we kind of need some on the ground support. And so we are a national organization. We have national clubs that reach out to us on federal issues. We can cover just about anything. We have had huge successes at the state level, but we have to have a really good local state partner that's working with us.
We are not. We're not that big of an organization.
Oh, yeah.
And so ultimately, boots on the ground helps us with what we need to do. So if they know who the players are, if they know what's happening there, and they need teeth. If they need power behind it, we can get the power behind it. So ultimately, we work, well, you met a couple of people who were here when you walked in, and one of them is the president of UPLA. And then the other one works with UPLA, Rose Wynn works with UPLA and with Cal 4 Wheel. So Utah is Utah Public Lands Association, that's UPLA. And Cal 4 Wheel is what you would think it is, California Four-Wheel Drive Association. And so those are two state and regional organizations that they came out here with us because they're both areas with a lot of public land, a lot of things going on. And so we're able to go to these meetings together and basically help them with what they're trying to do and add a little bit more oomph in some ways to it.
Sure.
And just be good partners with them. I mean, really, Blue Ribbon, I've hated the name since the beginning of working with them because it just doesn't make any sense to me.
It did back in the 80s.
I guess it did in the 80s, but a coalition of people who care about the same types of things. And it was interesting. I'll tell you when I first, because I'm like, Blue Ribbon Coalition, what does that even mean?
Yeah, what is the Blue Ribbon part?
So,
not Pabst.
Yeah.
Probably
so
not
back
Pabst.
in the 1980s, it was kind of a
No, but
trend.
we did end up with some sort of lawsuit before we were
did
both
you
involved
really?
involving Pabst. I do remember hearing about Pabst
like,
Blue
I
Ribbon.
went 4-H fair.
Oh, yeah. No, go
Whatever-
ahead. Sorry, Ben. Didn't mean to
pigs and
interrupt you.
cows.
No, there were what were called blue ribbon commissions that would come in and do like participate in congressional hearings that would kind of represent the different sides and voices within a constituency. And so I think at the time they thought that was just like a permanent fixture in DC politics. And it turns out it was a very dated thing that didn't last very long. We don't call them that anymore. I worked on the Hill for years. I never heard of anything called a Blue Ribbon Commission that was coming and
This is
debating
honestly
a
the
federal
first time
policy.
I've heard this explanation. I've been a board member for 5 years now, so I learned something new today.
There you go.
And so that's what
The
it
beauty
came
of podcasting.
But there are like overtones of you get blue ribbons if you win, and we had a lot of racing organizations that are part of it. That's what I thought it was at first.
I thought like county fair stuff, but I
county
do think
fairs.
like the Blue Ribbon, and it was everything, right? So it's grazing rights, it's all access on public lands was really where it started off as, and I think that as time has gone by, as there's lots of different organizations representing lots of different things, I know that when Ben and I both got involved, BRC went through a really weird patch for a while. Like they were calling themselves Share Trails, and we're like, wait, what? That sounds an awful lot like Tread Lightly. And there's already, they were trying to be the kinder, gentler version of themselves. And Ben and I kind of got involved and said, no,
it don't work in politics.
let's get rowdy. Let's get rowdy. Let's actually do what we're supposed to be here to do. Because I think if people are trying to understand, okay, where does Blue Ribbon Coalition fall in all of this? We are the fighting arm. We are the tip of the spear. We are legislatively, legally. I think I'm covering it with those two. Do I need to?
Well, I call it federal, like administrative advocacy is
there
working
you
with
go.
the agencies. Litigation means we're working in the courts. And legislative advocacy means we're working with the elected branches of government to try all three branches of government on every fight. We're going to try to fix things and protect access. And so if you look at the WeMo fight, we worked with the federal agencies. We filed to be interveners in the court case with the Center for Biological Diversity. We are meeting with members of Congress this week talking about that and what they can do legislatively or within their legislative oversight capacity to correct that decision. And so it's always an all-of-government approach in a way that we're representing as many of the possible voices as we can. That's the coalition. Is we want to represent, and if you care about accessing public land and enjoying them for recreation, we are fighting for you whether you know it or not.
Yeah. And it is all recreation. We have seen that motorized is really that black sheep.
Right.
So really that is the area that we just didn't see represented by anybody else out there.
Yeah.
And I think that that's been probably one of the most, so I'd never been to DC before last year. My first trip to DC
It's a good thing.
I still
You're not
haven't
missing much.
I
Yeah.
haven't done any of the touristy things because when Ben and Simone, our policy directors, not here, asked me to come last year, we did I was here 3.5 days and we did 20 plus meetings in 3.5 days. So, but ultimately what I realized in coming here and doing all of that is that there was nobody talking to DC about the motorized community on the level that we were when we got here. And I mean, I know we've been at it a long time.
There's a few.
But
I mean,
there's
you have
few.
we like the group from SEMA.
Yeah.
But they've got broad interests.
Fair.
Like they're
Right.
covering a lot of like the automotive manufacturing.
The business side of
things
it is a
and-
big
Fair.
part.
And now with
And-
Orba too, that
Sure.
should be
sure,
a good push.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
And
truth be
it's-
told, Orba was started by Fred Wiley, who was my first mentor.
Yeah,
He helped me
okay.
save the hammers back in the day. So that was really who first taught me how to do land use fights. So I shouldn't say there's nobody, but on a
It's just
federal
very
level,
few
there's
people.
very few and far between talking to people in DC about
Compared
this
to all
stuff.
the other lobbyists, that there's what
Well,
three-
even
Correct.
just compared to the
three big
anti-access
Yeah.
movement.
three big groups in the advocacy, the off-road advocacy space,
Right.
is nothing.
But then
That's-
if you go to the anti-access side, you've got the Wilderness
Exactly.
Society, you've got the CR Club, you've got
Yeah.
SUI. I mean, we could sit here. I could go
Yeah.
all day, and
I
they
have
show
a
up
letter of
regularly.
92 of them
sure.
just trying to block one forest plant.
And
Mm-hmm.
I would say too, like I think we're a very misunderstood group.
Yes.
Like I found during this past May, we did the SEMA rally, and a lot of the land access stuff was on the list, which I've always kind of pushed them to add. Like thankfully Karen's an off-roader and gets it. But like as much as right to modify and right to repair and all these things are important to the industry, like the Orba motto of no trails, no sales is a real thing. Like my entire business is based on it. So it was nice to have it. And the people who aren't off-roading or motorized access, or really just outdoors in general, don't understand what we're doing. They just see the side-by-sides doing donuts and beer cans falling out of them when they flip over and all those things. And that's just kind of like, so it's absolutely necessary when that is not the majority of the community.
Correct.
To have that forward face of, we want to conserve it just as much as you do.
Well, yeah, I think your community, this is probably a good place to talk about it. I think the conversation that comes up a lot is, what are we going to do about UTVs? What are we going to do about side-by-sides? And
we're gonna give one away, right?
Yeah, we are.
There you go.
Yeah, no, we have an awesome side-by-side we're doing as a sweepstakes. That's one of the, we are 100% like grassroots funded organization. And one of the ways we've done that is with these sweepstakes. We're
Yeah.
giving away some dirt bikes. And
So the answer is, what we can do with our UTV is you can be a part of the problem. Join BlueRibbon Coalition.
Look at you with pitching that, but no, actually, yeah.
I'm
It's
just
really good
Yeah,
callbacks.
no,
It's
that's-
better.
the machine is
that's
awesome.
fantastic.
It's a $70,000
Yeah.
side-by-side. All of the machine and the parts, all of it was donated
Yeah.
so that we could, because the industry believes in what we're doing, because we've been
Yeah,
effective.
heck yeah.
And every time our resources expand, we expand our capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, we hired a marketing person. We have our own attorney on staff. These are things that become really critical when we went from like 2 people. Now we've got 5, 6 full-time staff
Yeah,
members.
and
something
Shannon
like
will tell you, I'm always coming to the board wanting to hire more people. Like the only
Yes.
thing holding me back right now is just money.
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So back to the
we're
UTV.
solving
Yeah,
this
where I
problem.
was going with that I had to dig into it because I'm a Jeep girl, right? Like
Yeah.
that was,
Sorry.
and an Ultra 4 girl.
Yeah,
so
sorry, double sorry.
Yeah. Jeep and Ultra 4 were my entry points. Well, actually I had a dual sport first.
Okay.
But in hearing not everybody, but a lot of people really complaining about the UTV community, I was like, what's the story here? And so I started running some numbers that I think really blow people's mind if they think about it. For every brand new Jeep or Bronco or Toyota that gets sold right now, 1 in 10, 1 in 50 of those are probably going to go off road, and I'm being moderate with that, right?
Yeah.
So, and for every Jeep sold, there's about 50 to 100 UTVs sold every year, and those are 100% going to be off-road.
And often.
Right. And often. And so what has changed is we go, oh, the problem is side-by-sides, the problem is UTVs. No, they're just what you're seeing now.
Yeah.
And you're seeing them because there's now a vehicle that is so practical for off-road that why would you... My last Jeep was a 392, right? I'm not going to take that $95,000 machine and just... I took it up Fisher. That was a bad scene. But nonetheless, you're better off doing that in a side-by-side, right? So when people say side-by-sides are the problem, it's because they are the most... You're going to see more of them. For every one Jeep or Bronco sold today, there's 100 side-by-sides out.
I didn't realize the ratio was that much.
I mean, I've actually written the stats in some of my posts to try to answer people's questions on it. But if you really put it in perspective with everybody going, the side-by-sides are the problem. No, the side-by-sides are the new off-roaders, guys.
Yeah. Well, so a point we made at Hammers was that the Everyman class 4600 it's not dead, but the new Everyman is Sportsman UTV.
Sure.
Because we, being the two dumb idiots that we are, could legitimately go out and buy and build a competitive car for like $50,000,
and finance it all over 60
months. Yeah, exactly, and we could finance it because that is UTV is the new Everyman challenge. You can literally enter for 50. You can remortgage your house, have your payment go up $200 a month, and go racing and be competitive.
This is a podcast about good life decisions.
Listen,
my wife wouldn't let me do that.
We fully understand that like the hobby is detrimental to your finances, which makes part of it fun, right? That's all part of the challenge. Is how hard can I push it without breaking it to the point that I can't afford to fix it. And I think...
and give it to my best friend.
I pass it on to your friends.
I literally just gave my Cherokee to Pete. He's also on the podcast sometimes, but PJ. He's like, hey, you're not using your Jeep. Can I have it? I'm like, yeah, here's the title. I don't care.
My husband was given a rock crawler buggy for King of the Hammers that way, literally. Yeah. Like, okay, I'm done with it
It's
now.
just buddies.
Yeah, you can have it now.
My JK is a Jeep we built for our buddy, who's also Tom, ironically enough, who broke it to the point where he couldn't afford to fix it and then sold it to me. Yeah. But like... to that point, you hear these stories and you just think like rowdy, breaking things, tearing up the land, all these things, but it's not.
It's a culture.
That.
It's like a cultural identity that's part of like America. Like it's like
the exploration and adventure.
We know it because we're living it.
Right.
But it's like the American cowboy. Like this off-roading culture is its own cultural
100%.
identity. And I came into it kind of as an outsider. My family was in the helicopter business, so I learned how to off-road driving logging trucks and crummies around the Pacific Northwest on helicopter logging jobs, and that's a different way of getting into the culture. But I came into it, and it's just
completely different way.
But it's a cultural scene, especially if you get out in these rugged parts of the West, and we don't own it as that, but it's valid. It's very much a part of the American experience, and we should celebrate that. It's cool. There's a lot of, and especially what you're describing has been evolving for decades now, along with the evolution of the automobile, and the side-by-sides are 10 years into something this full-size culture has been doing for 100 years. And then we're trying to smother it in its infancy and saying you guys are a problem, and when they could actually be this massive force that gets harnessed. And there is irresponsible behavior. I'll tell you, in the Moab decision, the closure decision, we read the records on this. And there was only one report in all 40,000 pages where they actually were looking at vehicles were causing some level of damage. They were required by the wilderness group to do a monitoring report on specific trails so that the BLM could document how much damage is happening. So they did that on like 111 trails. And of those 111, they determined that the only damage that was happening was the trail on the map went from point A to point B and then stopped. But the trail on the ground went from point B to point C and stopped. But because their map didn't recognize that, they considered the continued use of what was on the ground a trail.
Yeah.
It was cleared. It was 2 tracks on the ground. You wouldn't know that trail stopped unless you were looking at a map.
Right.
Yeah.
But on the ground, you say, oh, this trail goes to the end of the trail, and then it ends. And they were counting that as damage. That was probably 70 of these trails.
Yeah.
39 were actual instances.
Was it like inappropriate misuse damage, or was it just use damage past the barrier?
There was no barrier.
Well, the virtual barrier, if you will.
I mean, it was just that there was nothing. Nobody was going off the trail.
Okay.
It was just that people were continuing to use the disturbed ground of the trail to the end of the actual trail on the ground, and that's what would. And so then there was 30 cases where there was some actual disturbance, and then they were categorizing that in a severity scale of like low, medium, high. None of it was high severity. It was all low to medium. And then they were breaking it down by vehicle type. And of this 111 trail damage sites that they were monitoring by court order from the wilderness groups as a requirement of a settlement, only 1 out of the 111 was from a side-by-side.
So it's not necessarily negligent misuse, it's clerical misuse. Mm-hmm. Is that that's what we're fighting against? It's not people out there being...
I think we're also fighting against social media.
Absolutely.
I mean, the same thing, like, right? If you weren't if you weren't at King of the Hammers, you thought all it was a giant fight. But if you're out there, that's not really what was going on. And so when you have side-by-sides or anybody out there doing something stupid, and then that blows up on social media, you think that is all of that versus a very, very small minority.
Yeah, I took the Washington Post out on a trail. There was a trail that got reopened during the initial term of this Trump administration in the Congress, and they did it through a Congressional Review Act. It was a trail that had been contested in Glen Canyon National Recreation Area, which is kind of out by Lake Powell. We're in southern Utah now. And this trail had been in court. SEMA had been litigating it, trying to force the Park Service to close it just to side-by-sides along a certain segment of this trail, which meant it was a loop that wasn't continuous anymore. So if you were a side-by-side, you had to go out and back. If you were on any other off-road vehicle, you could make this really awesome loop through the very cool part of Utah. So Congress passes this. That means this trail is now open for all OHVs. So this is a big win for that community there. But as you expect on social media, it's like, oh, now everybody's...
Can you hold your mic a little bit?
Now everybody's going to go tear this place up. And so the Washington Post reporter was coming out here, and I'm like, okay, well, let's go do a case study, man. I'm going to take you out there. I'll find some folks in a side-by-side to take you out. And keep in mind, most of this trail was already open to side-by-sides before. So if you see any place where somebody has left this trail, we will stop. We will document it. I will eat crap online for this because it'll look bad to me. You are national press, but you document it. You stop us and document it if you see it. We didn't stop a single time for that.
They had a great time, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
But then when they released the story, they also went out with SEMA.
Oh.
And SEMA's forerunner on a different trail. They didn't even take him to the actual trail that was being contested in this action.
Classic.
And then SEMA gave him pictures of an area that is a designated open OHV area so that the story picture could look like, this is what we want, is the tracks on an open OHV area.
Or anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is where you can drive anywhere.
Which
There's
is
a
the whole
small little
purpose.
area on a map where it's like, this is where you can drive anywhere. This is the one place on federal land where you can do that. That's an allowable legal use. So they go document that place all the time.
So it's honest journalism is what you're saying.
It is not honest journalism, but that SEMA uses pictures from that area every time they want to make us look bad. And then that shapes the public perception of this is what's happening everywhere you go. And it's
Which
just
is wild that like other organizations will use those dirty tactics. But when it comes to like the actual off-road advocacy groups, I think we play pretty clean. But these other organizations, they just don't.
No, I think we do.
You know?
It's interesting, actually. Stephen Watson, who raced Ultra 4 early on and came back to it this year, he commented on my socials today. And it was interesting because there were some people like, oh, I don't follow SEMA and I don't follow BRC either because they're both too extreme and it's their way or the highway, right? Said all of this. And Stephen Watson came on and goes, you know, the incredible thing is that BRC is pretty reasonable, but because there's nobody actually representing reasonable when it comes to motorized access, we feel radical, and they try to make us seem like we're radical in a way that we're truly not. We're just trying to tell it like it is in a way that nobody else is. And somehow that turns us into radical.
It's classic politics is we all start here, but if this side moves further, it looks like this side's also moving further.
True.
Even though this side hasn't moved, this one just keeps.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying which side's doing which.
No, I'm not either,
that's
but
just what happens.
It's pretty wild to think about because I will say since I mean, BlueRibbon Coalition has been around a long time, but I really think that between all of our efforts, there's been a lot of growth over the last couple of years, and it's put this target on us that the things that I have read about myself are truly shocking.
Wait till this podcast comes out.
Yeah, no. I'm like, really? Do you have anything to back that up? I think the one that really is frustrating is to constantly hear that we are funded by oil and gas and mining.
You're not?
Yeah, it turns out no.
The people that we're fighting against on the East Coast to keep our land open, you guys aren't representing them?
No. It turns out and it's crazy because we've dug into it as far as we can dig into it. Like everybody who's on staff now has only been around for the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? But really, near as we can tell, there was one staff member who had worked in oil, was an off-roader, had worked in oil, and then became a staff member. But that, again, still isn't oil and gas funding us.
And that could also been, they reformed, they saw how oil and gas was tearing up our lands, and they said, hey, let's go fix this now.
Well, and I
don't know if that's true or
Let's
not.
talk about
I'm
this.
speculating.
Like Ben said, he came into it from logging. That doesn't mean that logging is funding us at this point.
Right.
I think
there isn't logging. I left logging. My family left logging to fight
there's no
fires
funding.
because they don't let you log the forest anymore.
Yeah.
We just burn them down, and you can make way more money dropping water on a burning forest than you ever could from cutting a tree down and making it useful for a human to use in their life.
I will
The
say
irony
that
is if you trim the forest back, they catch fire less, but that's probably a separate podcast.
Yeah.
No,
it's
I
actually
could
been
give
a
you
part of our
one-liner.
conversations this week. I will say that.
Does any of that play into these conversations as far as fire access? Because I mean, I would imagine that's a priority for BLM still, and
yeah,
even
it should
I
be
guess
a
even
priority
Forest
for
Service.
the American people. We're having whole cities burned down because these forests are so mismanaged.
Yeah.
And I drove down to Santa Barbara in California to do a story because the Los Padres National Forest is where there are a lot of these coastal range forests. And the Thomas Fire back in, I think, 2020 or 21 burned up over 1,000 homes, 200 to 300,000 acres. It was the biggest fire in California at the time, but since then there have been like way bigger ones since.
Yeah.
And so the forest there was like, geez, we need to like get ahead of this because there are other communities in the similar risk situation. And so they put together a plan to go treat 235,000 acres of this forest. And the Los Padres Forest Watch built a coalition of 92 other environmental organizations and basically forced the Forest Service to pare this plan down. They reduced it down to 90,000 acres from 235,000, and they're still saying not enough. We only want you to treat 15,000 acres out of the 200,000. It lets them almost do nothing if they were to do their
Has it burned
alternative.
yet?
Huh?
Has it burned yet?
Not catastrophically this area, but in some ways it's okay for these areas to burn. Like the fire's kind of a naturally occurring thing that in certain cycles is okay on these forests. And some of the things the forest is proposing to do is prescribed burn. But the one that burned in the Thomas Fire, that whole range still looks like a war zone.
Well, speak to the Palisades Fire. Wasn't it the Palisades Fire where they didn't actually follow? There was guidelines of management that was supposed to happen, and they just didn't do it.
Well, they had plans in the works to build fuel breaks and to do things similar things. What's happening in
that
Los
was all
Padres?
state level, though, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it started in not federal land, but it's all surrounded by the Angeles National Forest. And so we went and looked and said, well, has the Angeles National Forest been proposing any projects to prevent this thing from happening? And believe it or not, yes.
Weird.
Yes.
I mean, somebody whose job it is.
Believe it or not, did they do
was
it?
doing their job.
No.
Stopped.
When did they stop? The last time there was an election. It was political. Like they just stopped. They didn't do it. And so how does that connect to recreation? Well, have you ever gone out to enjoy your forest when it's just a big burn scar?
Yeah,
actually.
Yeah, of course we all have now.
Yeah.
It's not as pleasant as as going out and camping in a nice, living, healthy forest.
But I think that you even hear that argument, right? That, oh, well, if the roads are open, there's going to be more forest fires. And like that.
We're not loggers dragging chains.
No,
like,
it turns out that's
no
not
offense,
what's happening.
sorry.
No, it's okay. But it's
Usually not the
also,
loggers, but yeah.
No, I know.
I don't like that study that comes from the wilderness groups. They've gone and looked at the GIS data of where fires have started and then just sort of said, how close were these fires to roads? And if you go stand on one of these roads in the Los Padres National Forest where the forest wants to build a fire break on each side of the road so that it lowers the risk of that happening, that's one of the treatments they're saying, we don't want you to do that.
We don't want to prevent
And
forest
so you go
fires
stand
by
on that road
preventing-
and the canopy's growing over your head. There's no way that road's going to function as any sort of a barrier to progress. It's not going to function as an evacuation route. And so they won't let us treat the roads, us meaning the community of volunteers and the Forest Service, everybody who would go do that work if it was allowed by their lawyers, but their lawyers won't let us. And then they say, well, fires are starting by roads. It's like, well, it's because you're managing the roads to a catastrophic condition. And it doesn't, and then they're using that against us. And then it gets even worse when you look at this and say, okay, well, even if most fires start by roads, let's talk about how much acreage is burned by fires based on where they start. And the fires that start by roads get reported, they get put out, and they don't turn into catastrophic mega fires. A fire that starts by lightning in the wilderness is always going to burn out to hundreds of thousands of acres. And so if you look at the acres burned by inaccessible, roadless wilderness areas, that's where all our big catastrophic, it destroys the forest, it destroys the habitats. I mean, I was on this news show, we were talking about the Dolan fire burned in the Los Padres National Forest. It killed, for sure, we have the carcasses and dead bodies of 9 endangered condors and destroyed their habitat completely. But the reason they're blocking the forest from doing this plan in the other parts of Los Padres Forest is to protect the condors. And the Forest Service says in its studies, the number one risk to the condors is these catastrophic fires.
Yeah.
Well, that's as ironic. We can talk fire all night too, but that's
we could, and we won't stop you because we're both fire.
right?
We both like fire.
But it's as ironic to me as this WeMo decision, Western Mojave decision around the
I
desert.
thought you were talking about driverless cars in Austin.
That's
but-
Waymo.
Yeah, no, that's WeMo. But the WeMo decision,
Also a different podcast.
Also a different podcast.
is around protecting desert tortoise, right? And so we've put out, you can go find it on the BlueRibbon Coalition website. We've put out that the tortoise is it's the red herring in this, right? So, and the off-road community is really the red herring. So the tortoise community, they're dying out. You know what the number one reason is they're dying out? Well, there's a few. I mean, one is just man expanding in general, but the other one is ravens. And ravens love baby tortoise, and ravens are now in certain areas protected. So we've allowed ravens to get out of control to kill the baby tortoise, and they can only find in, I think, a 10-year span of time that OHV had give me the stats on that.
We have hard evidence.
It's obviously the side by sides. We all know that.
We have hard evidence that
this is
OHV
crazy.
users are killing a half a tortoise a year in a 3 million
Where's the
acre-
other half going? Wait. wait.
Well, before we even get to that, how did we perform that study?
One every 2 years.
Right? So they were required to do studies on the federal. I don't know. They've been required to do studies on how bad the OHV community is for the desert tortoise, and what they found is,
we're responsible for half of
a tortoise a year.
And how many tortoise die per year?
Oh,
There's still a lot dying. And so then they'll say, well, but if we model this out, we can assume that it's 8 tortoises per year.
We can't model the weather 3 days out.
Yeah. So if
But
we speculate and
max
guess,
8
but the
tortoises
problem
a
is the
year.
Endangered Species Act, their standard is you just have to use the best available science, which
half.
means you can use junk science, you can use soft science, you can use speculative nonsense. That's why I use the half a tortoise a year is being killed, because if they're going to be stupid with statistics, I get to be stupid with statistics.
That's fair.
And
It's their math.
And so
If you haven't read the study by BRC, it's really mind-blowing. We put it out a couple weeks ago. I strongly recommend, if you're watching this right now, go find the Desert Tortoise study. Like
I am curious.
It's mind-blowing to read the stats on it. And we put it out there because it's just stupid.
But tortoises their populations are struggling because of ravens.
Right.
And because humans are capturing them, taking them home as pets, realizing tortoises live forever. So then they go release them back out into the wild. Like they just give up on having a pet tortoise, and
then they die that way because
they're
no longer being fed.
tortoise is like the box turtle, where it like lives its whole life within like 100 yards of where you find it. The desert tortoise is the same way. Someone on uses knowledge. That's why people.
My guess is they certainly.
That's another podcast. I think.
I'd have to like research that because that's a very species-specific question. But
the box turtle, if you see a box turtle on the side of the road, don't take it more than like a few feet to the side of the road, or because if you take it that 300 feet, 400 feet, it's never been there. It doesn't know where it's going. It doesn't know how to get back.
Do you know the difference between a turtle and a tortoise is?
Couldn't tell you. Different podcast.
Turtles like water. Tortoises don't like water.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you do encounter a desert tortoise, don't touch it. Don't get near it because it will nervous pee and then it will die from dehydration. I'm not even exaggerating. Nervous peeing. Humans touching desert tortoise. I think I'm still actually probably listed on Hammer King's thing as like if you encounter a desert tortoise at King of the Hammers, like I think call my number.
Yeah.
I really think it's my number on it.
You just yell into the phone, don't touch it.
It goes.
It's never happened, by the way.
With any wilderness, in the wilderness at all, like just don't like it. If you see something that's cool, still don't touch it, no matter how cool it is.
It's like I teach my 3-year-old. We look with our eyes, not our hands.
But so they take them in as pets, and then they re-release them in the desert, and they end up with a respiratory disease that they then pass on to the wild population that doesn't have any immune resistance to it, and the whole population collapses. And so there's real problems. It's
like we should learn from our past.
Like I love wildlife. I think desert tortoises are cool.
Yeah.
We as humans should do things to help them succeed as a species. And definitely not try to extinct them. But to try to say that the whole cause of this is off-roading and us using a few dirt trails in this massive area, the thing I struggle with a lot in this public land advocacy is we say, oh, the Grand Staircase is 1.8 million acres and WeMo's 3 million acres. People, unless you're an off-roader, you don't have any idea how big that is.
Well, even an off-road, I've got no idea how big that is.
I think too.
I didn't until I started going exploring these areas as an off-roader and start to see how long it takes me, once you get off pavement, how long it takes you to get through a landscape. And you spend a whole day and you're like, I only went through 100,000 acres of this 1.8 million acre thing. And everywhere I looked was just endless nothing. And you have these tiny little ribbons of dirt are our routes. Like there's just no way we're causing as much impact. Even if we were being as irresponsible as we could possibly be, lost in the size of these vast landscapes, we're still not causing enough impact. And we're not being that irresponsible. For the most part, we're just passing through.
But this is a radical idea. What we're saying
right
now
radical.
is so radical.
We're the radical ones because we dare
right
acknowledge like what we are observing on the ground with our own 2 eyes.
The things I've observed in the off-road community in the last, honestly, like year or 2 years as we've ventured more to the West Coast is... I don't want to say the West Coasters take it for granted because they don't. They understand what's at stake.
They take it for granted. I grew up in Rochester. They take it for granted.
Rochester. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I grew up in Rochester.
But to that point, like, I was at Overland Expo West. There were people who are fairly prominent in the industry who made comments like, "Yeah, there's no free camping in Virginia," and I went, "Wrong," and they were like, well, no, we couldn't find any. It's like there are 2,500 miles of Forest Service road with dispersed camping in the state of Virginia. You were just not looking hard enough or in the wrong spot.
Interesting.
And they were like, I had no idea. It's like, anytime you want to come to Virginia, we'll spend 5 to 6 days and we won't pay a dime to camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
And they're just like, come on. I had no idea.
But watch out for poison ivy. And
ticks. Poison ivy and ticks. Yeah, it kind of sucks. Listen, I'm not disagreeing any of that.
So back to your comment. You say you guys get out and explore pretty often. How do you guys recreate? Did you cut your teeth driving truck, logging?
Yeah.
How do you guys recreate now? Like what's your fun weekend for you guys?
So I have a 4Runner.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I like to just go cruise around in my 4Runner. I'm usually doing it for BRC.
It's all for content, man. Yeah.
Yeah, but it
gives you an excuse to get out.
But Which is good, but it means I'm also, because of the work we're doing, I'm almost never using the most popular trails. I'm looking at the most remote ones that
Give me a call. Let's
BLM
go.
are scrutinizing. And so I'll go just explore random routes into the middle of nowhere in the backcountry. Forerunner's about the right level of capability for what I need. I'm not like a big rock crawler, but I'm capable enough at it. Like I know what I'm doing. I've had a side-by-side for a while, and I liked the side-by-side. It was fun.
Yeah.
You can cover a lot more ground, especially if I'm out trying to cover a lot of trails just to get eyes on the ground and what's out there. I can cover twice as much on a side-by-side, and they're fun, but I like out in the desert at some point, it's nice to be enclosed and have climate control and out of the dust.
I like being forced to slow down.
Yeah.
That's like one of the reasons I don't want a side-by-side. I like to have fun. I'm a motorsports guy.
We've had some good fun.
If I had some side-by-sides, I would just be go all the time, and like I don't always want to go that fast. I like taking the sights. I just on my trip to Expo, I don't know if you've explored it at all, but in northeastern New Mexico, the Kiowa National Grasslands, I was blown away. I don't think it was just an area that I've never been to. I just cutting across the country was like, I'm going to camp here. And like, there's pockets of that.
Yeah.
And you were talking about the vastness, and it's just, at one point I stopped and there was no signs of human life in any direction. And I was 15 minutes from an interstate. And I was like, this is what people are missing. People don't realize, it's like you said, we're taking less than 1% of this land and driving through it. Like, we are not the ones ruining it.
No. And I think most people don't even have an understanding of it from multiple standpoints, right? So if you don't go out and explore, you think that side by side that you can hear like down the street from your house is wrecking it. Like
the 12-year-old doing donuts in his backyard is not the guy.
Right. And so you've never left to actually see how much land is out there, to know how very little we're actually
and what
on.
1 million acres looks like. Like that's a number that, like, especially on the East Coast, you can't put your head around it.
No. Well, and even so, let's take Johnson Valley King of the Hammers, right?
Yeah.
So 80,000 people come out for that event. I think that's the number they're saying.
Okay.
You can go during King of the Hammers, explore, and be somewhere where you would think there is no such thing as civilization anywhere out there.
I was able to, so we were camped in Hammertown Heights.
Yeah.
I was able to take a walk and go to a quiet place and just kind of sit there and chill. Because I got overwhelmed with people. And I'm like, I need to go away for a second.
No,
so
and
I took a walk and I found a spot that you couldn't hear anything, you couldn't see anything, no lights, no nothing. I'm like, this is like wonderful. Love this.
Yeah. That's 100% true, but that doesn't stop the environmentalists from saying we're destroying people's solitude.
Yeah.
We are the user creating user conflict. And so their solution to solving user conflict was just to kick us out.
Yeah.
And the good news is that this user conflict concept was actually one of the minimization criteria that now will be going away.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so that will no longer be a criteria that the BLM has to look at. And so one thing I want to say, because somebody's going to take a clip from this and be like, the BRC people said there's no damage happening. What we're saying is it's pretty minimal, but there are places I have seen irresponsible use. It's usually close to population centers. It happens.
But like I said, it's more clerical damage and not negligent damage. Is that correct?
There's both. What I'm seeing out in the field when they're closing trails is clerical damage.
Okay.
What I see there, but if you go right on the outskirts of Phoenix.
Okay, yeah. That's
you
fair.
know, I mean, you might find somewhere where people are burning pallets and where there is sort of some overuse happening because it's so conveniently accessible.
It's
to
so
the
buffered to
population.
cities. So I'll tell you that my club, when I belonged to a club, Jeep club, we had the closest trail to the county of Los Angeles, right? So it was in San Bernardino. And when I tell you that it was the first dirt road you could get to from the county of Los Angeles, the things that happened out there were atrocious, but it had nothing to do with true off-roaders. It had to do with people who were finding the closest dirt road adjacent to their city to do nefarious things, which is not the off-road community.
And
we get lumped into that.
Who are the ones cleaning that up?
And we were out there every weekend cleaning that up.
The backpackers aren't hauling pallets and mattresses and refrigerators.
Sure. We'd be out there for hours cleaning up shell casings. We'd be out there cleaning up all all sorts of stuff that you just can't even believe that humans would do. But that wasn't the off-road community
Have
doing
you been
it.
to West Virginia?
No, we have a board member from West Virginia.
I can imagine.
That's fair. That's fair.
But the other point I want to make on this is even to the extent that somebody does do something negligently irresponsible, not just ignorant, like they just didn't know, because that sometimes happens. Like there's times where you can get out there, and because there's so much land to manage, again, millions of acres is huge, even if you're the land management agency, to go out there and have like the right signage and everything. Sometimes people just don't know. You see a trail on the ground, you're like, this looks like a trail, I'm going to drive on it.
Yeah.
That might be a crime, but you didn't know. You weren't trying to like intentionally damage the environment. And so I'm pretty open-minded about let's not criminalize people who are actually just trying to go out and access a public benefit that's making them better people and bringing a lot of value in their life. Let's find a way to make that work for them. That's what a public land is.
No, four-wheeling is not a crime. It is not.
You guys can use that for a shirt if you want.
No, we should.
Okay.
But if somebody does do something intentionally, negligently bad,
The community gets after them.
you ready for something radical? You're ready for like radical B or C? The Constitution has something called due process.
Yeah.
If you commit a crime in this country, the burden is on the government to prove you committed it. It's inconvenient. They don't always have the resources to figure that out, but that's the country we chose to live in. Is the government has the burden of prosecuting that, proving without doubt that you're guilty, and then penalizing you in whatever form is legally available to them to penalize you to create a deterrent against committing that crime. The off-road community sees something negligent happening, instead of saying, well, go follow due process and prosecute the wrongdoer that did that and punish them. Their answer is, we should punish everybody.
Yeah.
We should punish ourselves. We should collectively punish the entire world and make this public benefit unavailable to everybody because one person took advantage of it and did something they weren't supposed to. We don't do that for any other public benefits. If somebody goes and abuses Medicare, commits fraud against Medicare, we don't come out and say, well, no Medicare for anybody.
Right.
That public benefit doesn't get...
Can you tell Ben's passionate about that?
applied to anybody. And so that's the way to fix this, is just cancel the program.
Yeah.
Save us a lot of money. We'd probably fix the budget deficit if we did that, but that's never the answer.
Dropping the budget.
So I'm not going to speak on this.
That's a whole other podcast.
It's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
We don't do that if somebody throws litter outside of the freeway and say, well, let's just close the freeway. No people get to use the freeway anymore. And so I don't think it's right or fair to say the whole community gets to be held accountable. We can go clean up. We can work with the BLM to try to find, and the agencies to find management solutions to reduce the risk of that and educate people about when they're committing a crime and not. But the collective punishment, that's not an American thing to do.
Well, I've also seen the benefit of social media is that when someone does something stupid that they think is cool and posts it on social media, the community goes after
The self-policing is pretty.
It's gotten really good.
Because we have to hold ourselves accountable because we get vilified every time we don't, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a catch-22 because as much as we are self-policing within the community, that stuff gets out of the community, and that's what gets...
Yeah, because the outsiders don't go to the comments.
Right.
Sure.
Like we'll go to the comments, be like, "Hey, you're being dumb," and you see all the comments, and you'll see everyone's. But then
King of the Hammers is a great example of that,
Sure
right?
it is.
Like all the Chocolate Thunder shenanigans, or if you're in the comments, or even the community pages in the off-road space are all, "Please stop doing this. Please don't do this. Like, don't be an idiot." But then that same clip without any of the captions is now on the 7:00 news.
Yeah.
Because it makes for a good story.
I mean, it doesn't even usually make it that far. Let's be real. Off-road doesn't get talked about much.
But that's my point.
Yeah.
Like when it does get bad enough,
It's always bad enough. Right. I remember. I don't know. This is off topic a little bit.
that's
but,
fine. Off topic.
This has been an oddly on topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to get us off topic. I tried to talk about self-recreating, having fun. I've got a question. I just have to lead us there.
Oh, I remember when Ultra 4 was very new. I still didn't work for the organization. We were actually taking part in a Colorado hill climb because Ultra 4 didn't have its own events. So we went and ran like Best in the Desert and Colorado hill climb. I woke up in Colorado Springs and Johnson Valley was on the news. It was the middle of summer, and I thought this is going to be catastrophic, whatever this is, because it was deadly off road. It was that MDR race where like 10 people died on public land, and it wasn't King of the Hammers related at all. It was a completely separate race. But I will tell you, the only time I have ever seen off-road on national television was when there was that
horrific
mass
incident.
fatality. In 20 years of doing this, unless it was King of the Hammers having an NBC
Right.
Sports TV show, or
Yeah.
but like the news actually picking up a national story, it was only to tell the worst possible thing that had ever happened in the
it's-
history of the United
that's the
States.
My
news.
grandfather calls the news tragedy hour.
Yeah,
That's all they
it-
do
it's
is
all it
they
was.
only show you the bad
Yeah.
things.
So-
we made the New York Times this weekend.
Yeah,
I did see that.
yeah, that's
That-
what's blown up my
You know, it's
my
because
feed a little
part
bit.
of my road trip coming home from Expo was to hit a bunch of national parks,
Mm-hmm.
and the whole time we did the Petrified Forest National Park, which was awesome park. But the whole time I'm driving, I'm just like, it'd be really cool if I could drive over there. Like I see something cool and I can't go over there. And then the New York Times is like, yeah, we're trying to allow off-roaders in national parks. And I was like, as much as I want to, that's not the point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I couldn't even believe that was the
They do
heading
that
of
to
so.
scare us. Like
Yeah.
the Park Service has different rules. This rule change that Trump signed, this executive order, really is mostly going to apply to BLM land and
Right.
Forest Service land. The parks each operate off of, each park was created by its own legislation, and they have their own statutory limits of what can be allowed there. So I'm not going to say it won't affect anything, but it's not going to be this blanket application across the entire park.
Right.
And I don't even know that there would be a lot of work to do to even allow it in one park because of this order.
Yeah.
But they know that. So they're just trying to they know they're not trying to convince the people that actually know anything about this. They're trying to convince the people who know nothing about this to emotionally agree
Yeah.
with them. And
So-
Clickbait.
yeah.
So do you really think it's malicious in that sense versus them just not understanding the difference between a national park and national
That
forest?
article was out within 2 hours of Trump doing that. And
Okay, so
within
it
2
was-
hours.
So they knew it was. They already knew it was on the
So
table.
they knew
so just wrote
they
something.
had somebody
running out of
lined up to
tinfoil.
do that article. The fact that it was out within
wild.
2 hours of that,
That's-
that's intentional.
there's
That
not
wasn't,
enough
oh,
tinfoil.
let me do my research. That is somebody from the anti-access groups had that reporters
In the queue.
and said, hey,
They gave
contact.
them 2 quotes and no
Yep.
quotes from anybody else that was like an opposing viewpoint, which is just
Correct.
journalism 101.
Right.
Yeah.
And then some
honest journalism.
stupid picture of a horse on it, where this is a story about like,
I'm glad you added an S to that because that was a long word.
yeah.
You heard that too?
And so, and then, but
Sorry.
then that article gets syndicated out to all the other news organizations, even though this doesn't
Yeah, we saw
feel-
Salt Lake Tribune picked up that article.
Instead of writing their own article, like Salt Lake
Yeah.
Tribune covers off-roading like it's one of the main features of their newspaper. But on this, one of the biggest things that happened in off-roading in 50 years,
Yeah.
they just re-syndicate the New York Times article.
It's honest journalism.
This is credibility laundering to let these groups get out there and advance the political narrative, not to do something that you and I would call
Yeah.
journalism.
So I'd love
Yeah.
to say it's ignorance, but within
It's
2 hours
not.
of that
It is
order
an-
coming
I didn't
out,
realize it was
intentional-
that
Yeah,
quick.
it was 2
narrative
hours.
manipulation,
Yeah.
100%.
In fact,
So
I was confused.
wild.
I thought, did we go back in time?
Because
Because
this
when
is
I
a
saw the
huge
date
threat
on it,
to
I
the
wasn't even sure the
movement.
order was out yet.
Like
Oh,
to
yeah,
actually
absolutely.
have the land agencies managing for multiple use, that is gonna take, like, the lawsuits that SUA files they're gonna lose a lot more lawsuits because of this.
Yeah.
This is a huge threat. So they are pulling out the biggest guns they have right now because they don't have any friends in the federal government at this moment.
At this point, it
for
sounds
the
like
first
they don't
time in
have
a long
any friends at
time.
all.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so it's,
Oh, they've got plenty of friends.
yeah,
Wealthy ones too, just not here in DC right now. Yeah.
And so they're playing the moves they can play while this is the political cards they're being dealt. But that article was just a joke.
Yeah, it's wild.
So
For
wild.
people to read that and think there were dozens of factual errors. Like we didn't even, like the posts we did, I picked out 3 or 4 of the most obvious ones. But this reporter knows, she's the climate desk reporter. She doesn't know anything about public lands. This is technical stuff. Like
Yeah, but land and climate go hand in hand.
Sure
Don't you
they
know that?
yeah, whatever. It's
Don't get them started.
and so this is
I'm so good at poking the bear.
political activism with the logo of one of what used to be the most prestigious newspapers in the country,
Yeah.
does intentionally fabricating this to make it look like this is truth, and
So
it's
wild.
super frustrating.
The
what it is.
2 hour thing is what's
That blows
blowing
my
my
mind.
mind.
Yeah.
Because that was just someone had already written that.
I
It was in the
truly
queue.
had to look at the date again because I was like, wait, did this article come out before they actually released it? Because it was so quick
yeah.
on when it came out.
I was not the best student in the world, but I don't think I ever wrote anything in 2 hours.
Especially on such a
Not even my name.
especially on something as complex as an executive order removing 2 executive orders from 1972 and 1977. Do you think you'd want to do some homework on that before you put an article 2 hours
Especially when
later?
like there are significantly more important things to be reporting on in the world today. Besides, I mean, not saying that what we're doing isn't important, but if you're talking from a mass.
I mean, the
produced-
president,
Different podcast,
a
Tom.
president
I know.
acting, using the power of the president
Yeah,
to act is always
It's-
newsworthy.
Yeah,
Sure.
And so, I give them credit for covering it, but they should have covered it like an actual journalist. They should have.
We'll see.
I mean, to give you guys an understanding, when we were dealing with the airspace stuff in Johnson Valley, right? So LA Times reached out and San Bernardino Sun reached out, but the LA Times, on their article on it, like they interviewed probably 10 people, I would say. She spent almost a week, if not longer, really trying to fully wrap her head around what this airspace meant, what it, like all of
That was
those
a big
things.
one.
And it was big, but a presidential order removing 2 presidential executive orders
was also big.
probably warrants more than 2 hours before you
Yeah.
got it published from the New York Times in
Well, because
particular. So-
if you honestly think that it took 2 hours to write, edit, proofread,
Publish.
check, publish.
Upload.
Did you see her definition of off-road?
I
I don't
didn't-
think
I
any
didn't-
editing happened. I
Yeah.
think she just went blah, and
Which
somebody
makes you wonder,
published
like,
it.
how does the New York Times not have a single gatekeeper,
Correct.
like determining what gets
Yeah.
published out on their platform?
Yeah.
Like, there's just it
was
blows my
wild.
mind that there wasn't. I've written opinion editorials for big newspapers for the Salt Lake Tribune, and I'll make a claim, and they'll come back to me and be like, "Prove that."
It was wild.
And I'm like, "This is my opinion, but I'll prove it for you anyway."
Yeah.
That they don't tell their reporters, like, "Is this for sure accurate?" And have nobody like asking the question, like, "Are you describing this?" I read it, and in 5 seconds, I'm like, "There's 5 factual inaccuracies in this. How did this get through the gatekeepers? Period." I have no idea.
Well, and my thought process is, well, take it to social media. Unfortunately, that's not a hot subject. I mean, it's a hot subject, but it won't do numbers on social media.
Shockingly, my post about it has
You think
been
so?
seen by. I wrote
Okay.
it on the plane on the way here.
You had a late
at
flight,
8
so that was
o'clock on
long.
Sunday night.
Yeah.
And I thought, this isn't going to go anywhere other than my
Yeah.
core group of individuals that I just want to vent about this New York Times post to, right? Because I don't have it's been viewed, last time I looked, 130,000 views on it.
That's not bad.
So I
You
was
do better than we do.
I was asking Ben, I'm like, how many people do you think actually saw that New York Times article? Because it wasn't a mainstream kind of thing. And I think it's crazy what social media can do. And I didn't think that many people would actually, I literally thought I was going to be preaching to the choir and venting about
Yeah.
what the New York Times did. And people are pissed.
Yeah.
And being able to speak reasonably about, I mean, I've had a whole lot of outdoor...
Be unreasonable.
Be unreasonable.
Let it out, Shannon.
Back. I mean, literally, I woke up the morning after I posted it to somebody must have shared it with an anti-access community. So it was all these hikers and stuff saying that you guys are the worst and all of that. But
well, it's because
I
you have
just
this
don't-
radical position that you
I
think
have
the
a radical
news
position,
should
and I'm
do
funded by
journalism.
oil.
And you're just
I've gotta
funded
be
by
careful that
oil
somebody
because
can't
you
take
think
that as a snapshot,
the New York Times
or
should
a-
have like the journalistic standards it used to have, and so you're just radical.
Shame on me. Shame
Yeah.
on me.
So the thing I just don't get is how these hiker groups, how they don't realize they're part of the motorized umbrella altogether.
Soft roading. Maybe
It's-
maybe we need to change
Yeah.
it.
Soft roading.
Yeah.
Have you not heard that one
Interesting.
before?
No, I haven't
That
heard
was
that.
Rick
That
Stowe,
was
wasn't
Rick
it?
Stowe, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he gave us the term soft roading. But yeah, they're soft roaders. They
Yeah.
still need these dirt
The
gravel
hunters, the
roads
fisher, the-
to
yeah.
access all their hiking and tree hugging.
So that was interesting, and I'm going to speak out of turn a little bit, but we got frustrated last year. I got frustrated last year because we had a number of hunting organizations come at BlueRibbon Coalition pretty hard around public land
Come
stuff.
at you guys?
Yeah, interesting stat, and I'm going to get it slightly wrong, but
Just make it up.
Utah, yeah.
Well, it'll go to the New York Times.
So,
Well,
We're a New York Times podcast now.
For Chris,
So I'll ask
hey, I
you
don't know about
guys-
that.
I'll ask you guys, what percentage of the state of Nevada do you think is public land?
I know it holds the biggest they hold the most public land of any state.
What a nerd.
Utah actually does though, don't they? Or
Oh,
no,
Nevada.
it's Nevada. It is Nevada.
Yeah. I see. I would have guessed Utah.
Yeah.
No.
But both
Listen,
of them.
I am a nerd.
Rough.
We are
I'm
the
gonna
dirt nerds.
I'm going to say 65%.
That's a reasonable number. It's a little bit higher than that though, right? No.
Nevada?
Yeah.
87.
87%. 87% of Nevada, and so it's like
So that's why there's
60 something in Utah, right?
67 in Utah.
67 in Utah. That's why I thought that.
Is this my leading question? Do I finally get my leading
Oh,
question?
go for it. Let's go.
Oof.
How much of that 87% has?
Oh no, you need to ask a better question than that,
All right,
Tom.
fine.
So in your personal recreation out there,
Tie it into the conversation.
it is. So in your, you gotta let me work, man. I'm a professional. From 9 to 5, I'm a professional. So in your private recreation, just out there having fun, like let's say in Nevada, Utah, these bigger states with tons of open land, have you guys had an opportunity, or not an opportunity, but have you guys experienced anything that made you scratch your head? So let's say Nevada.
Aliens.
Aliens,
He's
extraterrestrial.
asking about
this
aliens.
is where you're going.
Because we did.
That was
we
a
did,
very long way to say,
we-
have you
we did-
seen aliens specifically on any of the 87% of Nevada?
We did one night camping in
Moab.
Moab, and we saw something we could absolutely not explain. I looked up Starlink to see if they're launching a rocket.
Sure.
Nothing. Like I checked everything. We saw something in the sky we could absolutely not explain. And that was our first time camping out west.
Well, your
My first time.
Okay, well, if I was an alien and I was going to visit planet Earth, the one place I definitely would check out would be Moab.
It's fair.
Fair. I'll take it.
So the logic.
So
I personally have never seen anything unexplainable, and I've spent a lot of time out in the middle of nowhere. I've seen some amazing shooting stars. I've seen rocket launches. I've seen lots of stuff, but I haven't seen anything unexplainable. I've wanted to, but I haven't.
Yeah,
So it makes this scenario the weird part is where we camped was, and I do this to myself every time, Gemini Bridges. We were off Gemini Bridges in one of the few areas you can disperse camp in Moab.
we're going to fix that.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah.
We saw what was at first like, oh, that's cool. Like, what is that?
It was like a blue streak in the sky.
satellite that disappeared, reappeared, and then disappeared.
With an arc flash.
Like it had like the flash cone around it, and we all like wrote it off like probably meteor or whatever. What made it weird was the next night, my father-in-law and brother-in-law camped separately, also in Gemini Bridges, and they noticed a very large light glow, like light pollution, off the horizon in the exact same direction that we saw that going.
I got chill bumps.
Yeah. All right.
So we were like, all right, and now both my in-laws work in aerospace. They had the most reasonable explanation was it was probably some sort of satellite re-entering and being recovered. And then we were like, it probably wasn't a satellite.
Yeah.
But
There's a lot of satellite junk up there at this point, though. There's a lot of satellite junk up there.
the only reason that came up was just because Nevada, 87% of it being public lands, wilderness.
I get
so
you.
We can loop back.
We
Ben.
move back to it. But where I was going with that is, so people don't understand when you have
Maybe not. We'll come back to you.
when you have a state with that much public land. So interestingly enough,
You can hide aliens.
Well, yes. Also, Las Vegas wouldn't exist as a city if it hadn't once been public land that had been converted to private land to make Las Vegas be a city.
Okay.
So something that is complicated, land use is complicated. Let's
yeah.
just start there. And what I really didn't wrap my head around until really the team at BRC explained it to me is it's complicated. So you have 65% in Utah, which is a growing population. And they are running out of space to literally build homes on. So like Simone, who's our policy director, lives in a town that is, it's so landlocked by public land around it that like her kids can't even live in the same town when they're 18 as her because there's no homes in that town. And they also have to pay for, so you have all of us coming to the areas to visit, and so they have to do search and rescue. They have to pay for all of that, and that comes out of their local, but they don't have any way to have more industry or more people live there.
No property tax.
No property tax either. So what ends up happening is,
Because the government doesn't pay property property.
So Senator Lee last year wanted to say, hey, we need to sell some public land for practical purposes. But the anti-access community came at us so hard because we didn't say we're in support of it. We said it's complicated, is what we said. It's complicated. There's things we don't love about it. We also get that when you have a state that is 87% public land, you wouldn't have Las Vegas unless they had actually sold some of that at some point. So it's complicated.
Well, that's the story of, it's in Moab. The off-road park that's like right outside of Moab.
BFE?
Yeah, BFE. That's also private, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the story with area BFE. It wasn't a land that was sold off that was bought to turn into the park.
Right. So we ultimately said it's complicated. That's all we said. We didn't say we love it.
Well, and we technically said we can't support it in its current form.
Correct.
And then it never actually was publicly released in a subsequent form that we could evaluate it.
Right.
Sure. And people say, well, that means you support it. I'm like,
so
we don't support it. And it's like our position on every issue is we have to look at the details because we've seen land exchanges we support. We've seen land exchanges we oppose. Mm-hmm. These ones in Vegas, we've watched every one that's happened. And if it would affect an off-road area or trail or system, something we care about, we would oppose it. We'd litigate it.
Yeah.
But Nick and I, our marketing director, went and stood out in the middle of one of these, and it was a vacant lot in the middle of a nice suburb that was filled with like old shopping cart and broken glass and drug needles. I'm pretty sure like all the neighbors want the BLM to sell that land. And
so that's a big part of it. Some of these areas, they have these random parcels that now have homes around it that nobody's allowed. The government isn't maintaining it. The people who live next to it are like,
doesn't want to own
it's just 10 acres
orphan parcel in the middle of a subdivision.
Right.
They want to own contiguous open.
So there's a whole lot of
land.
checkerboarding happening that needed to be dealt with too, which is what this was trying to address. Anyway, our response to it was, there's things we don't love and couldn't support if it goes through. That was our response. The anti-access community came at us and said that we were in full support of it, that we were in his pocket. Like, they lost their minds. And the hunters and anglers and all of those organizations, people who are genuinely good friends of mine, are blowing me up, saying that you guys are on the wrong side of this. Like, and they're like, the hunters and angler groups are for it and or opposed to what you guys are saying, and they're telling us that you're bad. And it was like, whoa, what just happened? We said it's complicated, and now we're in full support of something that we never once said we supported. And so what was wild to me was when I was here last year with in DC for my first time coming here, we met with a lot of people, a lot of congressional and Senate staffers, and they just kept going, how are you guys funded? And I was like, well, we're funded by individual members. Like, and they're like, oh, that's so refreshing. And then they're telling us about like how Trout Unlimited and how backcountry anglers are actually really funded by major organizations that use them as a front, that come in. And so when they're in there talking to them, they know that they're not actually talking to people. They're talking to
corporations.
They're talking to industries or special interest groups is what they're talking to. And when we said, no, we represent the actual people, they were like, we love this. It was refreshing for them to hear that from us. But it blew my mind because literally backcountry hunters and anglers yesterday or the day before came out and said, outdoor public recreation is not the same as motorized, and these executive orders being overturned is absolutely terrible. Go look at their social media.
So good luck putting your boat in or accessing your fly fishing creek.
So everybody thinks,
what are you gonna do?
If it involves hunting and fishing, especially if it involves the Second Amendment, those people must agree with off-road. Turns out they don't, and they're actually wolf in sheep's clothing, and they've turned on us saying that we're the radical group, and it's like, wait a minute here. Anyway, I'm off on a tangent on that because I had no idea how
that's
just
so wild, though.
Supporting
like,
motorized recreation would make me radical and have not only environmental anti-access groups opposed to me, but also hunters and fishermen also opposed to me because I drive a motorized vehicle. I've become the bad guy on both sides.
But you park your Jeep 392 next to their Jeep Rubicon.
Yeah.
They both have 37s, 2 inches of lift. They just take theirs to go fishing.
Correct.
But they drive down the same trails you drive down. But you're the bad guy, or I guess we're the bad guy.
Yeah, we're the villains.
Even though your 392 and their Rubicon are, other than the engine, identically the same.
Yeah. No, it's completely.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
There's some other things, but not much.
Yeah. It's not a Rubicon.
A couple stickers.
It's not
the hood.
It's not
cool
the
logos.
Not the Rubicon X with the float axles.
Well, yeah, that's not yet.
They're not released the Rubicon
No.
X.
No. The 392s are technically all-wheel drive, so they're not even actually four-wheel drive.
They are
Yeah.
all-wheel drive. That is trippy. Let me tell you, driving that thing as an so I have a 2006 Rubicon TJ that
Hell yeah. Good for
Very
you.
different.
very
than a
different
392
than my 2024 392.
4 liter?
6 liter. No,
Yeah,
sorry,
4
yeah,
liter.
yeah, 4
Yeah.
liter. 4 liter. Sorry,
Hell
4
yeah.
liter. Yeah, yeah. I had the 2006.
Runs like a generator.
Technically, actually, so no random stories there. One, it has a crate motor in it now. Two,
Yeah,
my-
so it still runs like a generator. It's an inline
It's
6.
still, is it still straight six? Still the straight six?
It is still a straight
Yeah,
6,
alright,
but
yeah.
also my first year working for Dave, he called me King of the Hammers. He called me like a week before. He goes, "I don't have a Jeep. We've got." Griffin Radier wanted to get involved in superchargers, bringing something in the country. He's like, "Do you want a supercharger on your Jeep?" I'm like, "I don't know." I
Hell
look
yeah.
at my now husband. I'm like, "Do you want it?" He goes, "Yeah, sure, fine." So I literally handed my keys over at the beginning of King of the Hammers, and at the end of King of the Hammers, I had a supercharged. It didn't
Hell
meet
yeah.
California carb standards. It took me 2 years of beta testing it to make this all happen. But I have a supercharged crate motor in my 2006.
Hell yeah.
So, and that's my rock crawler now.
So I have a theory
yeah.
that the Jeep inline 6, the cockroaches and Twinkies will be the only thing left on this planet.
I blew it up.
Oh,
Well, it's supercharger.
The supercharger blew it up. I went through 4 sets of cats with it with the supercharger.
that makes sense.
Well, it's because you're in California. You need cats.
Yeah.
Well, there's that too. So I blew it. My husband technically blew it up. I didn't blow up the motor.
Well,
He
the good thing
technically
is
blew it up.
you're in this area and you can still probably find a motor and ship it home for a total of $1,000.
There's 3 in my garage right now.
That's true. That's true.
I got one.
Yeah.
I haven't given PJ the title of my XJ. Do you want an extra?
There's 3
4-liter?
still attached to vehicles in PJ's driveway. I have a few spares.
My husband's a car guy through and through. Like
Okay.
he worked, he was a crew chief in NASCAR Truck Series
cool.
back in the day.
Oh,
so
really cool.
He's a
Those,
guy.
those NASCAR guys are wild.
Yeah.
I did an event. It was the Zoofari, the Jeep Safari
Oh,
Zoo
yeah.
Yeah.
in North Carolina, and it was in the Charlotte area, and just walking around, seeing all these different Jeeps, and then talking to people, and just realizing they're all NASCAR guys, NASCAR mechanics, engineers, this, that, and seeing the level of their vehicles was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
He's pretty capable around a vehicle. And so he was like, "No, we're just going to get you a crate motor." So he replaced it with a crate motor. And yeah, now we're putting 60s under it. It's going to be
Hell yeah.
my Johnson Valley machine finally. It was my daily driver for 15 years.
So you have your TJ
Yeah.
and your 392.
Yeah.
Do you have any other fun cars?
I have a Grand Cherokee.
What year?
21.
Okay.
It's
So
a
WK2?
Yeah,
but
still
it's
WK.
it's an all wheel. Well, it's
Yeah.
a Trailhawk. So
Yeah.
I
Okay.
got that one. Actually,
They're good. I like the Trailhawks.
Uh,
I have a 13.
so I helped Mel Wade with Off-Road Evolution. He was putting on these JKX events, and I helped him for like 2 years, and his wife had one. And so I got to drive it all over the backcountry putting on those events because I'd have to beat
They're
them all to the event.
really
and
capable
They
for
are
what they are.
very
yeah,
capable
my
vehicles.
brother has a Renegade
Yeah.
in the Trailhawk.
Yeah.
And the thing did great when we used to take it out.
Yeah.
It did so good.
It's a very
These-
capable vehicle.
the
That's my
Trailhawk
daily
bikes just-
driver. That's
okay.
my daily driver. That's my fancy car is my Grand Cherokee, my
Okay.
Trailhawk Grand Cherokee.
See, it's not just me.
See, my fancy car is a GX, so
It's a 4Runner.
yeah, it's a 4Runner. Yeah, so I'm with you.
It's trippy though when I go back and forth because they're both all-wheel drive basically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so when I go back and forth between the 392 and the Grand Cherokee, I could those 392s are rowdy, and my husband does not like driving it because he's pretty sure it's gonna get away from him one of these days, just because
not
it's
that rowdy.
he drives pretty crazy.
I've
but-
driven a lot of rowdy things. The 392 is in my opinion, the perfect amount of power because you can do dumb things with it, but it's also tame in the sense that you can drive it every day.
You can drive it every day, but you can also go 100 miles an hour in
Oh,
the
yeah.
thing and not realize you're doing 100 miles an hour.
Get
in the
death
thing.
wobble 100 miles an hour.
I've allegedly
yeah.
done the same thing.
Allegedly.
It was not a customer car.
It's just you can take off
Don't
from
admit to it, Tom.
I didn't say anything.
You can take off from a light or
Oh, yeah.
or turn quick and be on your side if
Yeah.
you aren't. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but this year at King of the Hammers, I had to get a congressman down to the lake bed, and so Dave gave me his Raptor Bronco, whichever way.
Now
you say it.
that's
Raptor,
something
yeah.
you can get
Raptor.
yourself in trouble with.
So he's like, "Are you good to drive it?" I'm like,
Dave
"Yeah,
gave
I'm
me his
good."
Raptor.
So,
We're gonna hang out with you more often.
yeah. So he gave me that to drive the congressman down to the lake bed, and for the first time ever, had some envy. That thing ate whoops like it was its job.
Yeah.
It was pretty.
They're machines.
It's sexy.
They're
I was
machines.
but you know, I've actually
exactly what
parked.
they're built for.
I've parked next to a Braptor at the spa, which was interesting. So the 392 and the Braptor were next to each other at the spa.
That's the most Jeep owner sentence I've ever heard. That is quintessential Jeep owner.
So here I am standing there looking at the two of them, and the Braptor is wider. Its stance
it's
also
is
significantly wider.
Yeah.
significantly better looking, I think. I like the look of the Broncos.
I don't know. I'm
It's big. It feels a little bit like
Yeah.
a mini Hummer. It almost feels more Hummer-like to me. I don't love how big my 392 is either. I have a two-door TJ that I love, right? Like, I still love those.
I daily drive a two-door.
We totally went
kind
off
of.
topic here, but yeah.
No, off topic is fine. We love
Okay.
off topic.
no. This is normally the
This is
podcast.
Shannon
This is-
being nerdy.
Yeah.
Different.
I do want to circle back to a couple of things. I know we've gone a long
There's the
time
politics.
here.
You gotta say
but-
circle back to get back into the politics.
Now we're
Yeah,
corporate.
right? No, there's three things. You started to ask about the road this rule, and I think that so the minimization criteria and what's happening with that is huge for people to understand. It's something we've asked for since BRC began, so 1987. I was 10, so I definitely wasn't involved in that fight, but I know that BRC has been from the beginning. I know that when we came here last year with this new administration, it was one of our first asks because this administration was already overturning like Biden era executive orders. We're like, how far back are you willing to take a look at some executive orders? We've got a couple that might be worthwhile.
And to be fair, a lot of that was because of Supreme Court rulings. That
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff was vulnerable anyway. And this administration, there was an op-ed by Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk who said these orders, or this new Supreme Court precedent means we need to take a whole new look at the federal regulatory code and clean up things that don't have basis in law, that were just kind of made up by these bureaucrats that work at these agencies. So that's why we saw this as an opportunity. We need to just keep identifying the problem childs that have been causing problems.
I cried
our
last week, you guys.
When they're getting managed.
When I
And
saw
these
that
are-
minimization criteria had been, I cried, which was really like how you had goosebumps talking
Yeah.
about like
Aliens.
aliens.
aliens. Knowing that we had an administration that was actually willing to recognize recreation as something that needed help and assistance.
Yeah.
That has not happened in 20 years of my being involved in
When
this
like
stuff.
we have a great opportunity to fight right now.
Yeah.
Is because the administration isn't necessarily on our side, but I think they're willing to listen.
They're willing to
Which
say,
hasn't happened
what
in
are
the
we
past.
doing that's a little on the ridiculous side?
Yeah.
And so we're giving them things that we say, hey, this is a little ridiculous. Would you mind taking a look at it? And they're actually doing that part,
Yeah.
which is huge.
as a taxpayer, like obviously I'm involved in this emotionally, but just as a taxpayer, hearing from the government and people who are dealing with the advocacy side of it that there is some consideration for common sense is refreshing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like again,
Because living in this area, there's not a lot of
No.
it.
They're
Want to
like-
know who else is the biggest fan of this being rescinded? There's people that work on the ground in the field
Right.
offices in the BLM.
Right, yeah.
Because they
Their
think
job's a lot
their
easier.
job is now to they don't want to do this nonsensical paperwork for 10 years and then get dragged to court for another 10
they
years.
also want to go out and
They
enjoy
want
these
to just
this land.
manage
That's why-
land. They
Yeah.
thought they were signing up to go work in a land management agency, but it's actually just litigation preparation paperwork agency.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I think if you were to just talk to the average person that works at the BLM, I was in a meeting with one in Arizona a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned in passing the minimization criteria thing. He's like, do you think they'll really get rid of that? I was like, hoping.
Yeah.
He's like,
I heard about it from a
It's-
BLM worker too. They said, hey, are you guys taking a look at this? Because this administration might do something. I was like, I think we are. Are we? And they're like, yeah, don't you remember talking about last year? I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. We are working on that. But it's going to help all of us. And so I think that was a win. But you also, I want to circle all the way back to the beginning because you asked about the roadless rule. Because
Yep.
rescinding the roadless
yeah.
rule was also something we asked about when we came here last year. Because we thought this administration, these are two big wins for the off-road community.
Oh, absolutely.
I know I keep saying 20 years, and which makes me sound, I feel like so freaking old, but I really have been at this fight for 20 years now, since the beginning with Johnson Valley, which is where it started for me. I have never seen wins like this. All I've seen is losses and defending ourselves against losses. And so I'm going to let you explain the roadless rule, because I think you do a better job of it than I do. Because you were asking, and you were close,
Kinda,
but
yeah.
but people don't understand. They're
That
like,
tends to be where I live.
Well-
Close, but not quite there.
but also that same anti-access group, the same backcountry, the hunters and anglers and all of them were like, this is terrible. This is going to be the end of times that the roadless rule has gone away. But let's actually talk about what the roadless rule is too.
yeah, so the roadless rule is just applies to the Forest Service. And this was created in 2001.
Okay.
It was Bill Clinton, final days of his administration.
On his way out the door.
On his way out the door, they released this rule. And the plan is to identify, there's areas in the forest that they've identified as what they call roadless. And they want to categorize them as a roadless area where they're not going to build roads, and they're going to basically treat them like a wilderness area. And so that's just a huge controversy. And it ended up being 59 million acres of the forest land. I think the forest is really only about 200 million acres. So that's a big chunk of them. There's already a ton of those that are already designated as wilderness. And so that gets litigated from 2001, and BRC's defendant and intervener were involved in these lawsuits throughout. They get worked all the way through the circuit courts in the 10th Circuit, all the way through the circuit courts in the 9th Circuit. You get 2 different judicial paths looking at this. And at the end of the day, they decide that the rule is still valid, and it lets and so the Forest Service just created this rule. They were never told to. Like, usually the way the government should work is Congress should say, hey, we have 59 million acres of forest that we want to be roadless. Now you guys, the Forest Service, go execute as the executive branch what we passed in law, which is the will of the people, since we're the democratic branch that gets elected by the people. Instead, what they just said is, a law you wrote back in Teddy Roosevelt's day, there's some vagueness there, and we're filling that in by creating this rule that now lets us close 59 million acres, not you, the Congress. We're just going to decide to do it.
Unelected officials got to decide what
And-
got to
And
be
that's
closed.
and that's taking areas that have roads and closing those roads. Am I understanding that right?
I would say they would say that these were areas that were designated as they were roadless
They should
areas
have
before.
been roadless.
They'd been inventoried as roadless. And
I can give you a specific example of one that I think ended up in this category. So there's this amazing road that I went down on a rock slide on. It's a fire break road in, I think it's San Bernardino. It's right there, Angeles Forest, San Bernardino, right there. And we got to actually work on it as an adopt-a-trail. Like, you could see all of the city of Los Angeles from it. You could see Catalina from it. It was stunning to be up there. It will never be open again. It was a fire break road that had fires on it. And then it had washouts for years and years and years. The fire department, the forests really wanted this fire break road back. And we're like, hey, we're going to go out there with our hands, with what we've got, and we're going to try to rebuild this road to at least an off-road road, if nothing else, right? But they also felt it could make a good fire break. And ultimately, it's just not what the Forest Service wanted from it. And that road doesn't exist anymore. It's not even on their maps anymore. It just kind of went into this ether of places that I mean, and I don't know, as you can say. So that's the thing. People were like, how many roads were actually closed down because of the roadless rule? They view that entire area where this fire break road existed.
That never had a road.
It never should have had a road. The fire department never had the right to put a road through there. That fire break should have never been in existence. So it just doesn't exist anymore. And I'm like, I was on it. I had a key that got me past the gate to go work on that trail. And now it's just like, no, it never existed.
So the roadless rule is areas that are designated as roadless but have roads in them. When those roads deteriorate to a certain point, they just close those roads.
It can be that.
It can be
but
that.
it also can be a function of the agencies never really kept broad inventories of their roads, because up and through like the 50s and 60s, the law of the land was you can go create a road. You can go drive where you want on public
We're not
land.
telling people to go create roads.
absolutely
BRC
not.
is
Please
not
don't do that.
But
advocating
that's how
for
it
that.
worked. And then some of the laws changed.
Put them both.
But then you have all these roads that then got created through use over decades. And does the agency know where all those even are as you get into the 80s and the 90s and these areas, when these times when they are creating the roadless area? And so to say that that's what was inventoried, was the inventory complete? We don't know. I mean, we didn't have the same sort of access to public satellite data at the time. And that it's like, how are they assessing the completeness of the network of roads? We don't know. And so I would contest that those areas that got designated as roadless were roadless or not. Regardless of that, those are still areas that we were promised when Teddy Roosevelt said, we're going to lock up all these lands into forest reserves and end the homesteading era in the United States, where we're going to dispose of land to the American people. We're going to keep it as the government, but the promise is going to be multiple use, and that the public will be able to access these areas. That was a promise we were given when they made the Forest Service. And so those are multiple use lands. And what they've come in and done 100 years later is say, well, actually, no, these are roadless areas now. We made this up out of nowhere. And so those areas, like Congress has said, wilderness, no roads. That's the will of the people. The democratically elected Congress has drawn a circle on a map and said, no roads here. And here you have the Forest Service come and say, well, also here. But they don't have the authority to do that. And that's what, in 2015, as they went through all the court cases, the courts agreed and said, no, well, if the agency thinks what they're doing is the right thing, we're going to defer to the agency. And that was called Chevron deference.
Mm-hmm. This was the other thing I wanted to talk about.
And so that's what got overturned in 2025 by the Supreme Court, where they say no longer are we going to just defer to an agency's expertise on something like this, where Congress has been vague. Agencies have to show they have statutory basis for these things. And there's so many of these rules that got created that they don't have that. The minimization criteria, there's no statute. Congress never said create these criteria.
Yeah.
They never said create these roadless areas.
This took me a little bit to understand. Basically what happened was Chevron, we know what Chevron is. So when you talk Chevron deference,
the oil company.
right, the oil
because
companies.
they fund you, right?
Right.
No, Tim.
No, they do not fund
It's a joke. It's a joke.
That's a soundbite.
But all of a sudden he's now on our board, but Ben had a guest speaker come talk to us, and so he started talking about the Chevron deference, and I'm like, whoa, we're going down, where are we going with this? And so Chevron was a case. What happens with court cases is they set precedent. So deference means what they decided in that case that we now call Chevron deference was we decided that we are going to defer to the subject matter expert, even if they are politically appointed, not somebody who was elected, not somebody who has any credentials. Like, I'll give you an example. California Coastal Commission, those are all political appointee positions, but the California Coastal Commission has shut down Oceano Dunes, said that using whatever science they want to, making it up, and we've allowed that to happen, but we have to defer to whoever we have determined is the subject matter expert, because otherwise we're going to spend all of our time in court on stuff like this. So Chevron is what you think of as Chevron, the oil company, and the case meant judges said we're going to defer to these agencies. So all of a sudden we gave all of this power to every single agency, from the California Coastal Commission
to anybody who claimed to be
to
an expert.
anybody who claimed to be, or somebody in power just said, I'm going to give you a job doing that. So now you're the expert, and nobody checked their credentials on the way in the door. And so this is how we were managing our public lands for a lot of things for a very, very long period of time. And so when that got overturned, because I was like, how does this, because the Loper Bright is actually the case that overturned it. So this gets really weird for people who don't follow Supreme Court
I was
stuff.
saying, now you're getting like deep into the legal aspect.
Because literally this guy's talking to us and going, oh, well, it's about fishermen in Rhode Island, fishermen in somewhere on the East Coast. And I'm like, how does that have anything to do with off-road? They're like, but wait. And I'm like, you're playing this game of how does my brain connect all of this? But ultimately it was the same type of thing. There was an agency that was saying, hey, you have to have a government representative on your fishing boat somewhere on the East Coast, basically. And the fishermen are like, we can't afford to have this fisherman on there. We can't afford to feed them. We need that to actually be an actual person on our boats.
Right.
And so they fought back on it, which was the Supreme Court case that basically, well, we deferred to somebody who said you need to have somebody on your boat with you. And so it got all the way to the Supreme Court, got overturned at the Supreme Court level. And then it was like, whoa, wait, where do we even begin to look at all of the court cases that have been decided by this government agency? We said that they were the subject matter expert, which is it's everything, guys. Yeah. So we are in the Wild West as far as that stuff goes. So I hope you don't mind me interrupting you, but I was trying to explain it. You know it on such a level that I don't know is the
like you
average.
Know it on such a level too.
I've had to. I try to be Ben's translator to us normal folk who don't speak in legislative and Supreme Court knowledge the way he does. Like he talks about 9th Circuit, 6th Circuit. I'm like,
so
what circuits?
You're very
What are we
in
talking about? He's very fluent in it, and this is what I mean by land use isn't sexy. But what we're doing, and he totally disagrees with this.
Using the land is, but land use is not.
But we've gone 2 hours, and I think we probably bored most of your
Yeah.
audience to death at this
Oh, no,
point.
they
but I
hang on.
hope
No, I think
there's
this
some
is gonna
people
be
that are
very
really
entertaining.
going to enjoy this.
So my sister's a criminal attorney.
Okay.
So like I've unfortunately been exposed to a lot of legalese over the years, and I am. Like I say this lovingly, but like I am the mechanic in the family. Like I fix things with a
Sure.
hammer.
Yeah.
So like I've always.
I don't think mechanics fix things with hammers, but all right, go. Keep
I get
going.
what you're saying, though.
It's an analogy.
No, I get it. Yeah.
So
you
like,
got a problem.
like,
I got a bigger
I've
hammer.
always tried to be able to like understand it in normal terms, in the sense that we don't need to make it complicated for everybody. No offense, but I'm not saying you're doing it on purpose. But
He's just that smart. He's
well,
truly that
right,
smart.
and it's easy when it's the language you speak all day, and everybody in the room understands it. But then the rest of us who are the off-roaders and the Jeepers are just like, this is too much, and you tune it out and you just hope that your
Hope
trails-
somebody's representing you. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, all right, cool. We got good people on it. Like, I'm just going to let it be what it is.
It's been wild. This is my second time to DC. Fortunately, I learned enough acronyms when I was here last time that
Everything's
I'm
an acronym.
everything. And I was literally sitting there like Ben and she's not here with us time, but Simone, our policy director, they're so brilliant in what they do. But I'm feeling like I'm the dumbest person in the room playing catch up as fast as I possibly can while they are exchanging massive ideas in our defense, like supporting the off-road community and doing this. And you always have to have the person with the biggest brain in the room. And quite frankly, having Ben and Simone representing BRC is massive. And really trying to disseminate it. I mean, you guys, if you follow BRC's social media, you see Ben on there all the time, and he's trying to break it down in ways that most of us can follow what he's talking about.
Yeah,
But
you do a very good job.
he does do a phenomenal job. And that's been our partnership, I think, over the last few years is like, cool, now say it in a way that we can understand what you're saying.
Yeah, so to
break
tie
it
that all
break it
back,
down for the
though,
Cherokee guys.
is that
Yeah.
long story short? Then this forest roadless rule is this thing they made up under current Supreme Court precedent. Probably doesn't last. It's probably not going to survive court challenges at this point anymore.
Right.
'Cause that is the only reason it survived in the past.
Right.
And so the Trump administration is looking at those and saying, what things like this are on our books that we need to get rid of, and they're getting rid of them. And that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It means we're getting to the end game of what we need to happen here faster. And so you have the groups that are losing their minds saying, well, this is going to open the forest up to blogging or whatever. And it's like, there are still all kinds of regulations and still manage how public land gets used.
Yeah, I know
That Congress has passed, and those will still be in effect. But one thing that will definitely happen once the roadless rule is rescinded is I have screenshots of environmental groups saying, this is about thresholds of protection. One day these will all be wilderness areas. They know where they're going with this. They're not done with it being just designated roadless. They want these designated as wilderness areas so that they'll be closed forever for people to enter with motorized vehicles or to anything. And so we see this as we're moving the other way on the field towards a touchdown where we were playing defense before.
Yeah.
It means there'll be more access. That's what it'll mean. Is there will be more people can go enjoy more forest land than they could before.
I feel like that's the part they lose is
Public land.
public land.
We
not just
want
forest
to
land.
we want to
Well-
use the public land the same way they do. We want it to stay relatively untouched wilderness. We want to go out and see the natural beauty. We want the forest. We want the wildlife. We want all those things. We don't want loggers in there. We don't want mines. We don't want solar farms. Like we're not trying to say we want roads so we can bring the logging trucks in to mow this down. Like we want to leave it alone also. We just want to be able to get there. Like, yeah, I have 2 working feet, but I don't like hiking.
Yeah, but so I would say that's a nice thing to want, but roads create access for us to go recreate. Roads also create access for the agency to go manage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And unmanaged forests are turning the West into an unmitigated catastrophic disaster
Tinderbox.
with wildfires. And I said it before, I was a logger. And we have, through helicopter logging operation, gone and flown 1 million board feet a day off a mountain underneath a helicopter and left with a fully intact forest intact.
That's
You would, if you were to come back in a year,
you would have no idea.
you would have no idea
Right.
that we moved 1 million board feet of timber off that mountain and you now have a forest where there is thinned vegetation,
healthy.
like animals and people, you can move through it.
Right.
It like most people, whether you're an environmentalist or not, you look at the one that had 1 million board feet of wood moved out, and one that didn't, and say the one that looks vanished. That looks like a place I would want to live if I was a deer or a bear. The other thing looks like it's going to just go up in smoke, and that's what they're doing. And so I would say that there are people, again, just as the BLM was happy to see the minimization criteria go away, there are people in the Forest Service who want to see the roadless rule go away because they know they're experts in forestry. They've studied silviculture. They want to make the forests they manage healthy. They cannot because there are lawyers telling them they can't. And even if they could, like in the Los Padres National Forest, they had a plan to do 200,000 acres and they're being told, well, only do 15. By the lawyers. That's not enough. It's not going to make a difference. And so one day, and the choice isn't in that situation. It's not a choice between let's do this forest that only has 15,000 acres treated, or a forest that has 200,000 acres treated. What's the difference between those two? What you're really choosing is the difference between a forest that we've tried to treat and a catastrophic burn scar. That's what they leave out. Like the option they're really advocating for is for this just to completely burn up and get destroyed.
Burn it down. Yeah.
And
lose all the.
And they would say, no, that's not what we're advocating for. We have all this science and all this stuff to back up what we want. And I'm like, I've watched the news in the last 10 years. You might think that's what you want. It's not what's happening. Yeah, they're all burning down.
It's pretty interesting. I get it. I will say when Ben and I first started working together, he's the executive director and I'm on the board. So, and he would do these social media posts about wildfires. I'm like, dude, why are we, this is not our area of expertise. Why are we doing this? Why are we talking about wildfires? And I really didn't get it. Like, look, I'm an off-roader and I feel like you're getting into politics that have nothing to do with what BRC should be about. That we had these conversations. They were hard conversations, but really being able to draw those lines that we're talking about right now. And why are people doing this? Ultimately, there is literally a very large group of people, most of them have never left cities in their lives, that genuinely believe that human beings should never be outside of cities. And really, it is creating an incredibly dangerous situation with our public lands out west when it comes to, you can't talk about public lands and not talk about wildfires because they go hand in hand. And all of the things, there is a whole group of people that want to make so much wilderness that wilderness is going to come and kill us. And it literally, I mean, there's an election happening in LA today where one of the guys running basically had his and his parents' house burned down. I'm not going to get into all of that ridiculousness. Different podcast. But that's where we're at as a society, especially out west, is the threat of fires. California can't, own a home in California, and I want to knock on everything. I have home insurance still, but the amount of people who cannot get insurance on their homes in California because of what's happening, you can't talk about public lands and not talk about fire. So when Ben first was doing it, I'm like, dude, this isn't what BRC is about, but it's also interconnected. It goes back to your question, right? The New York Times. Did they mean it? I don't know, but they put that article out in 2 hours and nobody vetted that article. So who's behind this? And I mean, I'm not a conspiracy theory person at all.
We are.
It can't be a conspiracy theory if it's true.
You haven't seen any aliens yet.
Well, yeah, I haven't seen any aliens,
change.
so maybe that's it. But I mean,
check over the White House tonight. There might be something.
So somehow this has radicalized me to be talking about this. But if you legit enjoy public land,
I would make an argument more people should be radicalized at this point.
Or just
that's the point, goddammit.
Okay, we did not mean that either. So.
We're not.
We meant that like 1980s radical, like being made cool.
Yeah,
I think
it's just common sense,
right? But and to your point, like that's the fact that common sense has become radical is a problem.
Sure,
like that is a general blanket statement on a bunch of different topics, but for this specifically, like. I don't know, maybe this is naive, but it's not hurting anybody.
It's helping people.
Like the entire purpose of what we do is for fun. Like we're not the mining organization. We're not the the logging and the oil and the whatever drilling.
yeah.
Like, we're not trying to strip the land. We want to use it and protect it.
If
and
you look at
preserve it.
West Virginia and Pennsylvania, we've actually restored those lands,
right?
Yeah.
Because we had the opportunity to. All those logging and mining and strip mining, like all that's restored now,
and they're being used for off-roading.
Yeah, they are.
No,
and
dirty words.
And
yeah,
what we're doing, like,
because let's talk about it. The recreational motorized community is an industry in this country that can actually replace extractive things like mining and timber in these areas.
That's what our good friends at Backroads of Appalachia
Correct.
are doing.
I'm Jedediah and Eric. I know those guys well.
I hope I get this number right, but isn't it like $73 billion or $73 billion is the off-road economic impact?
Orba can probably give you that better than I can.
I'm pretty sure it was somewhere in that
it's significant, and we
range.
don't talk about it.
Right.
And so the reality is I'm sorry, but in my time with Ultra Ford, the amount of small towns, Attica, Indiana. Have you ever been to Badlands Off-Road Park?
Not yet.
So it was a strip mining. It was rock in that. The town was dead. I mean, completely dead. Kyle comes in, opens up this Badlands Off-Road Park, and now there's like an industry in this town that actually employs a good number of people because recreation is now happening there. So we have these small towns that have died when they've lost their factories, the mines, the coal, but they have land that we can go explore and be outdoors and be healthier people for doing. I never, when I got started in this, again, I grew up in... I grew up in Rochester, New York. I went to a liberal arts college. I have a degree in communication. And I didn't know public lands were a thing till I moved to California and met somebody who asked me if I wanted to go up to the top of the mountain I lived at the bottom of. And I was like, somebody owns that, right? I'm from New York. Yeah. You can't do that. Yeah. And I went up on a
power lines?
Dual sport, motorcycle. And I realized public lands were a thing. And then I realized that I was a healthier person by going outside more and enjoying the outdoors more. And it changed my life so dramatically that I ended up running King of the Hammers for a decade. But
and you're here now.
And I'm here now in DC doing weird things. But radicalized, like, I feel like I have a pretty common sense approach to life. And I thought, I can actually, because I have a communications degree, because I'm actually an East Coaster, I can actually try to represent the off-road community to people who don't understand. And in just trying to use my voice to be reasonable, I have been villainized, like, in ways that I didn't even know could possibly happen. And to realize that people, like, it's wild how much there is a community that doesn't want us to be free thinking out there using our public lands and exploring them and being outside of cities that I just had no idea. No. Like, it's been, I guess I am radicalized at this point, but it's been crazy to see the hate over something as simple as off-road. I'm not talking about going down and burning down cities. I'm not talking about waging wars. I'm not talking about...
It's the same thing as off-road.
Oh, it's all the same?
It's all the same.
It's all the same. Like, how did this become the bad guy thing? I just don't understand.
I've said it a bunch recently. I think we as a community are very misunderstood about where our priorities are and why we choose to recreate in a motorized vehicle, whether it's a side-by-side, a dirt bike, a dual sport, a Jeep, whatever it is. People who don't do it don't understand why we do it, and it's and it's the exact same reason. The same reason.
It's the dumbest hobby in the world.
It's the dumbest hobby. My wife gives me crap all the time. You're gonna drive across the country just to drive around and drive home? Yes, and I'm gonna enjoy doing it, and it's my piece.
Fantastic, yeah.
And it's just as much of a challenge to navigate what's public, what's private, where I can sleep, where I can't sleep, how far can I go on a tank of gas, where's the next gas station, all these things. It's no different than hiking the Appalachian Trail from start to finish, right? Like, we have the Trans-American Trail. We have these routes that all exist, and it's all part of that challenge. It's all part of that personal satisfaction.
It's part of the pioneering spirit that built this country.
Yeah.
And I think that is something So I had a corporate job when I started off-roading. You guys have corporate jobs and you off-road. Well, okay.
He's got a fun job. I've got a corporate job.
Okay.
I'm a small business owner, so I have a different perspective on a lot of things.
I'm a small business owner now too. But at the time I was a corporate, I worked in corporate America, and I would have my Jeep packed on Thursday night, go into the office on Friday.
I've done that multiple
Wait
times.
for the 5 o'clock time, whatever that time actually was, and then hit the road.
And those days cannot go slower.
They go so slow. But it changed everything. So when I came back to my 9-to-5 job on Monday, I'm like, I was hanging off the side of a cliff this weekend. And so really, like, if this customer's not going to be happy today, I think I can deal. It just changed my entire perspective on life in a way that if we don't get out and explore the outdoors, like, people are like, why do you do this? Why do I do this? Like, I don't get paid. I'm a volunteer. I'm in DC on my own dime this week. Like, why do I do this? Because I want to know that somebody 10 years from now, 20 years from now, that had no idea, just like I had no idea, can actually go out there and find this freedom. It is such a uniquely American freedom to be able to go explore on this level. And I know that because we've put on Ultra 4 races in Europe, and it's illegal in most of Europe to off-road. And they still do.
Yeah.
But
Welcome to the East Coast.
But we have public land, and it's ours.
Yeah.
And if we don't take advantage of that, there are definitely people trying to cut us out on that.
Yeah.
And shame on us if we don't speak up. So it's a legacy thing for me.
Yeah, I truly believe that that motorsports and the adventure tourism spirit can 100% turn everything around. If we embrace old Teddy Roosevelt and just love our neighbors, go out and explore, be outside, it's healthier for you.
Do you know in Canada it's actually, Ben, I think you're the one that told me this. In Canada, they actually prescribe the outdoors for your health.
Yeah, so I live on the Appalachian Trail, between the Appalachian Trail and the Shenandoah River. Country Roads was literally written about where I live.
Love it.
Not West Virginia, because it's not written about West Virginia.
Virginia.
Yeah, it's Western Virginia. Actually, it's Maryland.
He was in Maryland when he wrote the song about Western
Isn't
Virginia.
that another podcast?
Yeah.
Depending on who you ask, that's this podcast.
Okay.
Yeah, I just lost my...
That goes back a few years.
That's the most radical thing that I've heard on this podcast.
Oh, that...
Is that...
Wait, have you not
No.
known?
Country Roads is not about West Virginia? That's pretty radical.
It's absolutely not
It's
about
actually
John Denver admits it.
Conspiracy. No,
So
I'm
the
just kidding.
Shenandoah River cuts like through literally like that much of West Virginia.
Yeah.
It's 10
I'm following
miles.
you.
It's
And
10 miles of West
he was
Virginia.
driving, I think, from DC
He was
in
on
the
70.
interview.
He was on 70.
Yeah. He was like leaving a gig in DC, driving through Maryland and going, wow, it's so beautiful here, and passed a sign that said West Virginia, and he's like, cool, that's where I'm at. And that's
Cool.
why he wrote the song about West Virginia.
Yeah, I truly believe that the
That's a conspiracy.
the outdoors and the adventure tourism lifestyle, if it's embraced by more people, we can really turn around everything.
Yeah.
It's just everyone just relax, go outside, go be in nature. Like you said, you come back to work. I don't care that I'm under fluorescent lights right now, because I just had a great weekend. And you know what? Come Thursday, the Jeep will be backed again, and I'll go do it again.
You just do what I do and just not unpack it.
Fair.
And then your wife yells at you for not unpacking.
Once
So
I
you don't
get
actually go out.
once I get my Lexus back, I can leave the Jeep packed.
Well, stop running into things.
Listen, that Subaru stopped in front of me. But I think that was a beautiful note to finish on. I think you said
Sure.
we were going for 2 hours, probably about an hour and a half ago.
We've gone a long time.
yeah.
We've bored everybody.
Not our
It's-
longest podcast.
Not our
Okay,
longest
good.
podcast.
Glad to hear we aren't the
If you want to
longest
go
podcast.
longer, we
Wait,
can.
who's the longest?
Abe Wine. Truck Night in America, Abe Wine. He's a good friend of the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Of Abe.
Okay,
Wine,
let's
I
let
know
him keep the record.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
let him keep.
Yeah.
Well, next time he's come back to DC or we're in your area,
Okay.
we'll
Sure.
get together. We may be in Salt Lake City and for Monster Jam World Finals in a few weeks. Who knows?
only hope.
Perfect.
But where can people find you? Drop your socials and personal socials too if you're interested.
Yeah, so our website's BlueRibbonCoalition.org. It's also where we are. I mean, we're very active on Instagram. We have a Facebook account that is active. We're on TikTok, all under Blue Ribbon Coalition. We have an X account, which is BRC Blue Ribbon. Those are probably the best places to find us. But if you're only following us on social media, you're still missing a lot. Our newsletter, every week, we have an action you can take. Every week, there's at least one new thing you can do to keep public land open somewhere. Usually there's more, but at least one. And that will give you a little bit more information in depth of things we need you to get involved in. And Yeah, so that or come see us at events. We go to a lot of events. Not as many out here on the East Coast, but out west.
change, man.
So yeah, Blue Ribbon Coalition website. Sign up for our newsletter. We are funded entirely by our members, and it's so expensive to become a member. It's $5 a month, or
I can't drink one. I can't go to Starbucks
$50
one time.
a year. Yeah, no, right? I think it's $50 a year or $5 a month. It's very expensive to become a member. But there's also something interesting about becoming a VRC member that people need to know. We have won cases or injunctions or whatever that allow things for BRC members, because when we file lawsuits and we say, hey, this is unfair, like we filed one over film permitting issues, not going to go off on a tangent here, but all BRC members became exempt from film permitting during a certain period of time. So when we go fight for our members, if you are a member, it makes it a lot better. So
like we
please,
technically legally represent you.
we represent you.
And so that's why we make
So-
the barrier of entry low.
Yeah.
But if every off-roader supported BRC for $5 a month, we'd be the best funded nonprofit fighting for this stuff
It
in
would
the
be
country.
massive.
Like we would because there's so many of us. They're just not.
And
We
so
just hide in the
engaged.
shadows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so please go to our website. If you
We'll post
don't
the
feel
link.
like financially supporting us, you can still sign up for our newsletter. We offer it free. But what happens with that newsletter is huge. Like literally 10 minutes of your time a week by going in 5 minutes to go take action on things. Then when we go and say, hey, people care about this, we can actually show them the record of all the people that care about it. And that goes a long way, because when we come to DC, we came to DC today with a this big of a petition signed of people who wanted minimization criteria removed. And I'll tell you what, those guys were like, this is amazing. We might still need this, even though we've overturned it. Can you send this to us digitally? Because this is huge that this many people support what we're doing. Because mostly all we're hearing is that we did something awful right now. Right. So the more we speak up, the more we become less radical. So Blue Ribbon Coalition, yes, I'm on the board. My socials are, you can find me Shannon Welch on Facebook or the Shannon Welch on Instagram. I'm way more. It's a lot of words on Facebook, so you have to like to read. But I share my opinions on things, which mostly involves land use at this point, because the rest of it is too crazy even for me.
Yeah.
And
Not
thank you
sexy
guys.
enough.
Yeah, not as sexy as land use. How did land use become my thing? This is a weird one.
It's wild,
Anyway.
because that's like it's like our underlying tone with almost everything we do now is like land use.
But really just the advocacy in general.
Yeah.
Like when we got involved with SEMA 2 years ago for the EV mandate, which was mostly through the shop. And
we
and a
drove
lot
here
of,
in an EV.
we drive here in an EV. That's not the point. I remember like my sister was here visiting friends in DC, and I was like, oh, I'll be in DC tomorrow. And she's like, what are you doing in DC? And I was like, oh, I'm going to Capitol Hill. She's like, what? And I told her what was going on. She goes, that's not legal. And I was like, that's why I'm going to Capitol Hill, because it is. They've already done it.
Yeah.
She's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I was like, I understand. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And it's great that I think as an industry, and I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like we do a good job of representing ourselves. In the fact that you're a volunteer on the board, like you're passionate about it. You're not just a paid lawyer or lobbyist or whatever, just hanging out because it's the next agency to hire you.
Yeah.
And I think that gives us a lot of credibility as a community, and
it scares the people who don't want us out there,
Right.
which is why we're radical now.
right because they're the paid lobbyists.
Yeah,
they're being
correct.
paid by the groups
Correct.
of people who don't want to put the effort in themselves to do it. And I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I
Yeah, I
think
agree.
supporting Blue Ribbon is absolutely worthwhile at $50 a year.
Yeah. So the other thing you guys can do as our listeners is, even if you don't sign up for the newsletter, which you should, or pay your $50 a year, which you should, just hit that reshare button on Instagram.
Yep.
Let the
Huge.
people around you know that you care.
Yep.
We actually
And
get
it's
paid
super-
by Facebook now. Like
Do you
our
really?
Hey,
We
congratulations.
actually do too. I think we hit 500
so
followers.
if you just like our stuff and share it on social
Yeah.
media,
Perfect.
it's a small
You
donation.
can
Yeah, that-
support it for free now.
Yeah, there you go.
Just take the post. Ben's posts are wonderful.
Even if you don't watch them, just hit the like.
They're
hit
layered
like
with
and
good
share.
information. Put it on your story. Hit the reshare button, and that,
Yeah.
even that minimum effort does so much to help push the message.
It does. Absolutely.
But we appreciate you guys for inviting us out here and to hang out
Thanks
and talk
for
to you
making
guys.
the drive on a
Yeah,
Tuesday night.
listen,
So.
this is
Traffic
as
will be
wild
better
as
going
enough.
home.
as wild as this is very important to us.
Yeah.
And we find ourselves in these wild spots because we don't say no and we care.
We really appreciate it. Thank you guys for coming out.
Yeah,
thanks.
you guys know where to find us everywhere social at the Dirt Drive, Dirt Nerds Off-Roads, and Dirt Nerds Motors. Dirt Nerds Off-Road on YouTube. And I think that's it. Thank you guys very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you guys.